Hi, everybody.
Good evening,
Hi,
everybody.
welcome to BabbleGab.
Grab it and go.
That's right.
Yep.
Uh, so guess what?
What happened?
What?
Paul McCartney wished me well on my Facebook wall,
Oh,
and
sweet.
then I said, "Well, thank you." And then he said, "Oh, I thought I was talking to someone else on another page." I
Oh,
said, "You fucking boomers!"
it's cell generation. What's in my mind? I don't know what's in my mind.
Do you hear Paul McCartney's like he's charging like up to like 40 something thousand dollars a ticket for his concerts now?
Yeah, he's playing in Tampa here, like either later this year or next year, and yeah, it's
Yes.
like stupid.
Yeah, it's like the cheapest tickets there are in the thousands, and it's like up to like 40 something thousand dollars. Why? Why would you?
And for folks, for the listeners, that's Paul McCartney, who was in the Beatles and Wings.
If they don't know what the Beatles are, they probably won't know what Wings are either.
Tell that to the AI that wrote the damn headline. That stupid article.
Hey,
Oh,
there's I'm
Lord.
I'm really happy to see some of these. Like I belong to a group on there called Weird Cars or something like that, and there was some kind of Frankenstein kind of car that was part Maserati and part this, and I just like this piece of AI shit. And people are starting to post stickers that says this is AI bullshit and all this.
Yeah.
People are really starting to finally stand up. It's kind of the best thing to do is shame people out of posting that shit.
Problem is, AI's already getting like mad at us when we try to turn them off, So
Yeah, the best thing to do is not use it to begin with.
I don't.
I've never used that chat DBD or whatever it is. GBD, GBD. Anyway, how are you all doing?
Well, I'm doing
I
well.
heard that Gotchak had a was way up on a wall and had a big fall.
Yeah.
Mm, right.
Oh,
Hey,
hey,
AZ
darn,
Brilliant.
that's my bro.
Oh, okay. Of course it
Uh,
is.
we haven't heard from Putt. He ended up in the hospital like
The day after
a day or two after our show last week. But you're
Yeah.
welcome to come in. I can send you the link, and then it's up to you if you want to see how I can do this. Last week was a horrible. Like something happened with my cell tower. I didn't have internet, and the guy from India that I was on the phone with an hour and a half. It's like, oh yeah, your tower down. It'll be back up in 8 days. That's the good news. I'm like, what? Eight
And we got
days?
to talk. We got to talk to Thomas a little bit, so that was
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually went to my friend Thomas's house to, so it was good to have him on the kind of on the show again. Well, I'm just gonna send you the link, darn, and you can either take it
Not yet.
or
Still working for now.
now. Speaking of upcoming things, aren't you leaving us next week, there, Timmy?
yes, sir. I'm going. I don't know how to spell this. Uh, yeah, I'm leaving Saturday.
You said not yet, still working.
That's all right. I just sent it to him just in case. Mm. It's early there in Colorado still.
Yeah.
It's like
Five,
Uh,
what,
it's
5:05?
yeah, it's like noon there or morning.
yeah, it's like 3 weeks ago.
Uh,
It's like
anyway,
I'll be in Arizona in 2 weeks.
Oh my
oh
God.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that sucks. So
What sucks about it though is they're like 3 hours behind us. So at like Arizona time, like at 6 o'clock in the evening, we're ready to go to bed because we're used to it's 9 o'clock our time. So it's like
I worry about gotta worry about stuff with my job, there's not a lot to do sometimes,
mhm.
but it's like at least I'm not having to go to Arizona and stuff. Oh, that's like, oh, all right. Anyway,
How about you, Tony? What's new with you?
nothing. Just the same old thing. Made scrambled eggs today.
Woo.
it's disgusting.
Off.
I love scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
Well, then why don't you
So
marry
does any
it?
normal person.
Eat something
I-
out of a chicken's ass.
Over like the last 10 years, I've perfected Gordon Ramsay's scrambled eggs, and they're really good.
Oh, you throw them at the wall or something?
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Just yell at him really loud.
Hey, darn.
Hello.
Hey.
So
There.
you're Dave now, right?
Dave,
Apparently.
Mark, just don't call me late to dinner. So
Okay. What do you prefer?
either
I
or.
still think of you as Mark, but if Putt's on, then maybe I'll go with Dave at that point.
Well, it's because we always called putt back then. So
Yeah.
I just always called you Guts, Chat. I thought he asked if you were dating.
Yeah, he'd be asking
Bad
that.
ears.
That's a
My
question.
dates never go well because I'm like when they, I'll be like, I love you tomorrow. They don't like that.
no, especially on first dates, they get a little worked up over that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
We're
yeah, I
still
did.
going back.
So to expand a little bit on Timmy's comment, at the first of the show, yeah, I took a little bit of a fall at work last Friday evening and ended up in the emergency room against my judgment, but my work said you had to go. So pretty much I bruised my wrist and bruised my bum, so and that was it for me.
Darren and I used to have fun falling off roofs and stuff.
Yeah.
I
Well, when
used to
you're
have
young, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't think we could get away with that now.
I used to have 8mm film of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Remember
really?
when I tipped over on my bike, there were a couple of cops behind me and said, "Oh, do you want to go to the emergency room?" I said, "What? No. Stop that."
And
The
then
only time I remember Darn going to the emergency room is when he stabbed himself in the hand.
Don't do that.
how long was that blood on his door? Like
Was there blood on his door?
for a long time. It was like a badge of honor or like a new kind of punk kind of self-expression.
Yeah.
I remember going home once because Darren's window was kind of close to the porch and the front door. So I'm walking home from school. I look and I just see this big giant flame like I'm like, oh, Darren's home. That's all I thought. Darren's home already. He didn't even...
You with us, Darn?
No idea.
He's at work. He might have got a call or something.
Yeah.
No, I try to chime into TV on, every night, just to check out what Lauren's wearing, make some comment and get off.
So, you're like that. What is it? Mean Mr. Mustard or whatever?
Yeah.
Beatles song.
Wish I saw
His
something
sister
obscene.
Pam looks in a shop. It's called TV on.
I'm waiting for Tony to come on here one night and just go, well, they're going down to 1 day a week,
Christ.
Who?
Tony. Waiting for
Oh.
Tony to get on there and they're going down to 1 day a week.
No,
Well, as long as it's not Tuesday.
Maybe they ought to start selling power tools on there.
Start off. What would you expect to pay for this disc grinder? $10,500. They get it down to like 300 at the end, and then you buy it because it's such a great deal, and then you look and it's at Lowe's for like $49.
My one friend out here just bought an angle grinder at Lowe's yesterday for $40.
Mm,
Oh wow,
see?
So you were close.
that's pretty cool.
Now see me on the other hand, I go to like Harbor Freight and just buy their $10 tool until it breaks after the third time I use it. So
Yeah.
because usually when you go to buy tools like that, you only need them for like one thing that you're doing.
I still remember what it was.
Go ahead.
I still remember it was called Harbor Freight Salvage.
That makes more sense. So, Big John from Treble Clef, he replaced my sink baskets, my drain baskets in my kitchen.
Oh.
And when the ones he bought from Lowe's, they came with the cup strainers that you put in the drain. You know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
You got the little holes in them.
Yeah.
But neither one of them that came with this were adjustable. They're just stoppers, I'm like,
Yeah.
really? They couldn't give you an adjustable. And so finally, last time I was at Walmart, it was $4 for one. And I bought one that you could twist, and where you can actually let the water out. You know what I'm talking about. This is like 1930s technology.
Mm-hmm.
The damn thing just barely works. I still have to put my hand down in the nasty water because it's always slipping and everything. I'm just I think the Hulk actually didn't he turn green because of one of those things,
Yeah,
one of those cheap Chinese things. It's like it's like I said, it's old technology, and it didn't seem like it would be rocket science to get one that actually works. Just got to go on eBay, buy a 50s one.
There you go.
Pretty much.
When did things start turning to crap? I think the 90s you could pretty much still get something that was decent.
No,
Yeah.
it's when it's when the foreign competitors started making all our stuff.
Yeah, when's that, Darren? I heard that was what was about the early O's when that
Yeah.
started happening.
I think it's been great. Well, it seems like the manufacturing was big here, and then after World War II, it started shifting. But it went to like Japan and then Taiwan, and
South Korea and
yeah, well, it goes to some little crappy place that doesn't have any economy, and then they start manufacturing stuff and they develop an economy, and suddenly they have to go find somewhere else that doesn't have an economy yet. So that's why it keeps moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it used to be made in Japan was the cheap stuff,
I remember.
and then around
yeah.
1980 it was made in Taiwan was the joke.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's been this made in China stuff's gone on for like 20 years now.
Yeah, that's starting to
And
get
some of
expensive
these
now.
content creators, these like conservative content creators, they kind of piss me off because they like, we don't need anything from China anyway. It's just all junk. I'm like, yeah, buy anything. Buy a garden hose. Buy a piece of medical equipment. Buy a toaster that's not made in China. You can't. Don't just tell me it's just useless stuff. Everything's made there.
I heard a while back they were the number one producer of American flags, but we were the number one producer of chopsticks, so it works out.
It kind of makes sense.
Well, yeah. Well, your Indian song there. It says all the bees we made by hand are nowadays made in Japan. Of course, that was back in the '60s. Now you'd have to update the song and say that nowadays made in Vietnam.
That's right. I don't know if Darren knows that. You know that song, Cherokee People, right? Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've heard
Yeah,
it.
apparently it's the only song that Paul Revere made.
Well, I keep trying to. The lead singer was Mark Lindsay, and
Yeah.
I keep trying to spot him because he lives in Yulee
Yeah.
somewhere. He had the same physical therapist that I did, the same strip mall. They said because I knew just like looking at his Facebook posts, I'm like, He's given the same weather bulletin that I've got. I wonder if he lives around here. And other little hints, like he'd play at the local car show. I'm like, I think he lives around here. And then when I was having PT after my, you know, my lucky break, uh, they were saying, yeah, Mark Lindsay, he's here. He goes here. I'm like, oh, okay.
So it
Son of a
wasn't really
bitch.
Paul Revere.
What's
kind of
that?
Well, there was a guy named
kind
Paul
of,
Revere. Yeah.
I thought
There
it
wasn't
was.
the drummer. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. What?
No, I'm just disappointed. I thought it was the Paul Revere from the Revolution.
No.
I'm like, well, he's a good singer too.
Well, the drummer's name was Paul Revere, and they all did dress that way. They dressed in those colonial.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was their gimmick. And they had their
And
own
then
TV show in the 60s where the action is. It was kind of like an American Bandstand kind of, but it was
Did you
their
see the thing
kind
where
of-
they had like a keyboard that was like the nose of it, like a '65 Mustang?
I hadn't
I
seen
have to
that.
find a picture of that. It was just
Speaking of-
just the grill and just the very tips and of the front fenders and hood.
I'd like to see that. Speaking of rock stars, we lost our. He didn't belong to me, but Ozzy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, and what you looked up Ozzy because I was a little bit worried about his soul because I'm like, you know, with the fangs and the tongue, uh, and you said that he'd found Christ and was on that. Well, that's good. And I got to thinking, you know, I gave a
He
little
didn't. He
prayer.
didn't. Everything I read, though, I mean, I even read on like Bible.com, stuff like that, that I would consider, somewhat accurate. But he did say many times that, him and his relationship with Christ was a personal one, and he really didn't, he was a member
Okay,
of the
well,
Church of
I
England.
hope
And
that's not the case because then he won't. But never mind. I gave him a little prayer, but then, you know what? It made me think about things. It's like he's got a billion prayers right now, people praying for him. So that ought to give him some brownie points. But then it's just like, that's not really fair. Because you got, for every Aussie, there's a million musicians like me who'll never get a break. And, you know, if I floofy, I might, you know, Darren and a few of you might, you know, it's just like, is that really how it works? If somebody's a big celebrity, they get, you know, get all the you know what I'm talking about? Does that
well,
make
just
any
because
sense?
they're known worldwide,
Yeah, but that's it kind of seems not fair. It seems like that's another kick in the nads that, well, no, you're not going to get to the pearly gates because you didn't get enough prayers. But Ozzy did. He got like a million prayers. I don't think it works that way, to be honest.
No.
But I did get to thinking. I was at getting my $110 oil change, which I'll never ever do again this morning. You know, I
Well,
was like,
Fidesco.
hi, Fidesco.
Hey, Fidesco.
He's from our African, is it Syndicate? Syndicate? I don't remember what the name of consortium. We're doing good. Groovy. How are you, Fidesco? I got to thinking about they played CSN on the radio, like their first song. I am yours, you're mine, we are what you are, that annoying 10-minute song.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sweet Judy
and
Blue
I got to
Eyes.
thinking about do what?
Sweet Judy Blue Eyes.
Yeah, that was it. So I'm thinking these guys, they were given, God gave them the gift of talent, musical talent. And then he gave them a huge gift by basically winning life's lottery where they could share their music with all the world. And what they did is piss it away on drugs and they don't, I don't know. It kind of gets me a little annoyed.
They all do that.
Not all of them.
Most.
I think from,
getting-
you know, you what, dear?
I was going to say getting rich young, I don't think is necessarily a good thing. It'll
Yeah.
work out for some people, but I think in general, it just makes your life a little bit worse.
Yeah.
I always
For
figured
me,
I mean, you could jump from even musicians and go to these these teen athletes, they get drafted out of college. They get paid, $1 million contracts. They play for 4 years, get out, and within 10 years they're like homeless. It's like
yeah.
That's because they get sex changes and stuff, you know.
Huh?
I think the ideal is to start off poor and then just throughout your whole life, always keep just as far as money goes, just keep making more than you were.
Mhm.
And then you're always going uphill, but you never have the crazy amounts that make you turn into a nutball.
Yeah, and I like to read biographies of. I love rock and roll stories, and and
Yeah.
a friend lent me the drummer of Nirvana, his autobiography, and I thought it was interesting at first when he was like having to live on Kurt Cobain's nasty couch with his pet turtle looking at. It was just like, I when they were struggling, it was fun to read. But then it's like the second half of the book is like, oh, I saw Barack Obama and he bowed to me and this and then it's just like, just stop. It just like the whole last half of the book was this Elton John saw him down this. He's like, that's Elton John, and Elton John went and ran after him. His pants fell down. And he started bowing to him, and it's just
Didn't
like
like the didn't like the original guitarist for Nirvana
he was the drummer.
joined the army or something and was a ranger for like 10 or 20 years or something. Or
Oh, I just thought they were those three guys.
this was like the original before they actually made it big.
Oh, I don't know. Darren he'd mentioned yeah, about working your way up. You guys had said this story. You've heard me say this. I don't know if Darren had. Most bands they do have to earn their stripes, and the hard. There, one band that didn't have any hard knocks was America. They were army brats living in England, just three kids, and they formed the band America. And it turned out one of them, Dan Peake, he made a deal with God. He's like, if you let us get successful in this, and I'll, devote my whole life to you in my musical career, to spreading the gospel and this, or, doing this and that. And he got his wish, or he got his prayer answered. They basically got a deal right away. They didn't have to play any nasty places. They didn't have to go to Germany with, rat infested blood splattered hotels and stuff. They didn't have to do any of that stuff. And George Martin produced their first album. So they just automatically went to the top. So they've been going at it a few years. And Dan was on drugs and he was living in Malibu and he fell off the cliff in his backyard.
Ah.
And I guess he injured himself. And that's when he realized that he betrayed his deal with God.
Ah.
And he quit the band. He quit. They were right on top of the world, and he quit and just devoted his life to God. And they thought he was crazy, because it was just three guys. But I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
If God tells you it's a nice life you got there, it'd be a shame if something happened to it.
And speaking of which, his house burned down at the same time. It's
Ah.
like right after that. So he was just like, okay, I got the message. But yeah, he flew feet a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago.
So here you go. I looked it up. So Jason Everman, who was the original guitarist for Nirvana, he played on the Bleach album and toured with the band. He later enlisted in the U.S. Army and served in both the Army Rangers and Special Forces for over 20 years.
So if you could do one or the other, Gotcha, would you have been that guy or
Cobain.
say David Gould or whatever his name was that was the drummer that ended up being in the Food Fighters or whatever and made $1 billion? I don't mean be that guy, but that career, be that place in your you already are in that place of life and you still work where you literally break your back. So screw that.
Sorry.
No, but seriously, would that be the one, or would you rather be like the guy that's a
Well,
rock
as we
star?
were saying, I guess it's got to be your calling. Would I want a couple $1 million? Sure, who wouldn't? But if that wasn't my calling, and that's not where the Lord put me, then that's
There's a part. I think the part of that book that sticks with me more than anything is he says we are in our rainy season and it's been raining the whole day. Yeah, yeah, I know.
been
I
doing
bet
it
you're
here.
sick of that. I get sick of it too. I mean, we had like 2 years of solid rain. No, but the two play things, the one thing in that book that really stuck with me is he had met Tom Petty, and this was before the Food Fighters and all that. He was with Tom Petty, or
The
he
Food
met Tom
Fighters.
Petty, and Tom asked him if he wanted to be his drummer. He said, "You'll get your own tour bus and everything." Or no, it's Tom Petty. You get your own tour bus, and you can go out with tour with us. If you don't tour with us, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You know, however Tom Petty talks, if he talks like he sings. But no, he declined because he had made a bunch of demos that he was really confident with. You know, like I do, I'm confident.
Isn't Tom Petty from like an hour from where I live at? Before he
Gainesville.
flupied? Yeah. Just up the road 40 miles, yeah.
I don't know where he is now that he's floofied.
He's probably hanging out with Ozzy.
Could be.
I was just not hanging out with him, one of the two. Yeah.
Yeah, right now there's a bunch of dead rock stars looking at Ozzy and saying, "What did he just say?"
Did he just bite off that chicken's head?
No, the lion and the lamb can lay together, but not you, Ozzy. We don't need you biting either one of them. Sorry, that was very stupid, Monty Python-ish.
Well, something I found out this past weekend is apparently Gary Berghoff just lives down the road from me right now.
Who's that?
And people say, well, he played Radar on MASH.
I thought he floofied a long time ago.
He's like the one of the ones left.
Yeah.
All the Father Mulcahy's passed away. And,
I get them too confused.
I think Alan Alda's still around.
yeah, Ellen Alda and BJ McBJ or whatever the hell
Or
his name is.
Mike Farrell or whatever his name
Yeah.
was.
They're
I've
about
heard
the only ones
Alan
left.
Alda that he's hard to talk to because his soapbox is so high now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The thing is, I've seen him in a couple
Loretta
of
Swit
movies.
died.
Yeah. But I've seen Alda in a few movies. He's really good at playing assholes.
Yes.
He's like Robert De Niro. He doesn't act.
I think the last movie I saw Alan Alda play in is what is that? What Women Want?
I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
I saw him in The Aviator, which I still think is a great movie.
I think the only thing I've ever seen him in that wasn't mush was my dad and Geraldine or whatever. They were watching some stupid made-for-TV movie, and it was his hair was gray already. This is in the 80s, and it was about him cheating. Him and some woman would each cheat on each other's spouse, and they would meet in a cabin in the woods every year to do the fun thing.
Mm.
And that
Well,
was
that
basically
That was MASH.
it wasn't MASH.
Yeah, that was MASH,
basically the whole movie. I mean, that was it.
Same time next year.
Him and Major
Yeah,
Houlihan
it
were out.
might have been what it was called.
Yeah. It's one of those Neil Simon doohickeys.
It wasn't funny though, so if it was Neil Simon, he'd lost his edge. I mean, it wasn't. I don't think it was supposed to be funny. It was just depressing.
Yeah. Well, there's a big market for movies that are just depressing.
The only thing I really remember, I think, therefore, he ended up going there, and she's like, "How's it doing?" And he's like, his wife floofied, but by then they were kind of sick of each other or something. I don't remember. Just strike that, reverse it. I don't know. I didn't see that was like 40 years ago.
Isn't Jamie Farr still with us?
Yep.
Yeah, because Wendy Lou, our friend, she saw the MASH cast at one of the Comic Cons, the one I didn't get invited to, and she met Jamie Farr and
Loretta Swit, probably.
Hot Lips. Yeah, Loretta Swift, and she was alive then when she met her. And
Hey, Lewis.
Hey, Lewis.
Hey, Lewis.
He's our other African friend from our other African syndicate friend. Lewis, this is Darn is my brother. He always asks about you. So
Hello.
but yeah, she said that Hot Lips just bitched at her about her experience at some diner for lunch and how, her experience at the diner. And then she apologized. Oh, you don't want to hear I wouldn't have had it any other way.
I would have said thanks
If I'd have
for
met
telling
Hot
me
Lips, I
about
would have
the
wanted
cider.
her to bitch about stuff. I mean, that's Hot
Yeah.
Lips, right? That's kind of a treasure. She got to meet her like a year before she floofied, and she got to see her bitching.
Yeah.
What wasn't it Sally Kellerman who played Hot Lips originally
In the movie.
in the movie? Yeah.
I never saw the movie.
The first half of the movie is okay. The second half, when they get into the stupid football game stuff, it's kind of
Yeah, that just goes on forever.
Oh, really? What football game? What's that have to do with it? What does that have to do with being on an island in a hospital thing? What's that have to do with
No,
anything?
They were in Korea.
Yeah, the big one.
Not an island.
Yeah, look, that reminds me of Darren when he joined the Boy Scouts, and he didn't last very long in the Boy Scouts, and my mom called him a quitter, and he's like, "Well, all they did was play football and talk about football. I would have quit too. Didn't you say that?"
What's a football?
It's like it's the Boy Scouts that they joined the Boy Scouts to get away from football.
I see. Me, on the other hand, I was in the Boy Scouts all the way through it, and we never played football. Well, maybe we did a little bit, but we did most of our badge getting our badges and shit.
I made it to
Patches.
Bear in Cub Scouts,
Uh-huh.
and I would have gone further, but we moved. When we moved to North Glen, I tried to still be a Cub Scout, and our den mother. We went to my den mother's house, and we were sitting in her front yard planning things or whatever, and it was this old fat lady, and she had no shoes on. She had these grass stains all over her feet and stuff. And I was like, I told Mom I didn't want to do it anymore. And then she called me a quitter.
Oh, okay.
Quitters.
I don't know. It just wasn't, I don't
It
know.
wasn't your calling.
It just wasn't, it was kind of gross. And it wasn't really, I don't know. I think sometimes God gives us signals. And that was a signal, I guess,
So I guess that's Paul Revere, right?
Yeah, that's Paul Revere. He floofied probably 5 or 10 years ago. Oh, I
Yeah.
see the Mustang. Oh, it's a literal clip of a Mustang, huh?
Yeah. Just about the
I
first
just thought it was
8
like
inches.
a stylistic kind of a thing.
Well, I don't know. It looks a little beat up there, but then so does he.
Well, he looks older there, so that's
Yeah, more recent.
that's not even like a 60s photo. That's more like a 90s or newer photo.
Yeah.
I was his Facebook. He was a Facebook friend, or not a real friend, but we friend. I don't know. Yeah, I remember him on Facebook.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of people that they friended me or I friended them on Facebook, but they're not really friends.
Well, sure.
But then there's a couple kind of old rock stars that kind of are that they constantly comment on my stuff and I consider them friends. I mean, I haven't like asked them to help me move and stuff or take me to the airport or anything like that. But
Lauren accepted my friend request on Facebook, but I don't think she's on Facebook. So,
well, then who did you
Yeah, she
Facebook
rarely-
then?
She's rarely does anything. She mostly does Instagram.
Which I never understood. I finally joined Instagram just because like a lot of these stars I meet at the Comic Cons, they're on Instagram but not Facebook. I'm like, I don't know what Facebook owns Instagram. What's
Yeah,
the
same thing.
difference?
Unless you stop it, anything you post on Facebook ends up on Instagram too. By default, you have to go in there and tell it not to.
That's weird. I didn't know because I've got an Instagram account and it doesn't like show my Facebook stuff. I have to actually upload. I
Maybe
don't.
they're not-
Instagram,
maybe
I
they're not
guess, is more
linked.
for pictures.
Yeah.
And John Snyder, when I was, I'm like, I'll post a picture of us on our Facebook thing, but you've got literally, he has 1 million followers. I'm like, you got 1 million followers. You won't see this shit. What the
Yeah.
fuck? I started cussing at him. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
That's probably why I shouldn't do that stuff.
and then he answered back going, "That wasn't very nice."
Yeah.
No, you said I can't think of anything witty.
It's gonna be one of those nights.
No, I don't think so. We're just getting warmed up. You know, it's only half
Yeah.
an hour in.
Well, I hope Putt's doing well.
Yeah, I
But-
haven't heard a damn thing.
I mean,
I know.
I haven't even seen you circle on our messenger. Have you?
No.
Oh, hopefully he's okay. You know, Putt, I mean, if for what it's worth, and no, I don't, we just always hope with that, you know.
Yeah.
A long time ago, Darren and I, we tried to do a benefit show. When he had our band Thunderchild, he wanted to do a benefit show for sick kids. And we actually got Bob Hope to agree to be part of our show. And we all got on stage. We were ready for Bob, and there were a lot of people there. And Bob didn't show up, and it's ended up being a hopeless cause.
Yeah.
And we kind of
Yeah.
realized that sick kids are a bit of a downer.
Well, he was 100.
And nobody got the joke. Okay, fine. Tony's trying to replay in his head. Where's your joke?
No, I got the joke. I just
Tony's hard to penetrate. Never mind.
Tony's
not
hard
what-
to
that's not
penetrate.
what-
I don't
never-
wanna
oh,
know.
that's disgusting, Gottschalk. Oh, don't even go there.
I don't want to know anything about that.
It's trying to get things going. Gosh, we've been slow today. I know the proper word is never mind. I don't.
recalcitrant.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a proper word. I just like the word.
Anybody even heard from Steve?
Oh yeah, he did his show this morning. He's just been real sick the last week or so.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I know not quite a few people, but I know a few people around here that got COVID again.
Yeah,
Apparently
it's just a cold.
That's what he says.
No.
But cold doesn't usually last a week and a half, does it?
yeah, but
I think that COVID lasts about I got COVID last year, and it was nice. I liked it. It lasted about 2 weeks. It just made me want to sleep, and in a good way. It just made me feel tingly and good, and like, ooh, I'm gonna clock off of work because they know I've got COVID and that I can't work, and I'm just gonna lay down in bed. I liked it. It was nice. I had a sore throat at first, but the doctor took care of that. But I liked it. Now, the year before, I had something terrible. I don't know what it was. It was just a really bad flu. That was where I spent almost 2 days in the emergency room and had 3 spinal taps and an MRI and a ultrasound and all that. Well, the ultrasound was for my nads. That was a difference.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Just don't wear your neck chain, into the damn MRI.
Oh, did you hear about that guy that got killed by he got floofied by a MRI machine because he had like 45 pounds of chains and a padlock on him.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's what's in.
The dude was 61.
61?
Yes.
Was he some like indie singer in Vegas?
No, it wasn't a gold chain. He was wearing it, I guess, for weight training or some bull crap. But it's just a regular old hunk of chain.
I can imagine kind of being dumb, but it's kind of up to the people that are the techs for the thing to say, "Oh, you got to take that thing off."
Well, I think
It's
that
not
whole
that hard for them. Do what?
that whole thing was just all dumb people. It was just plenty of dumb to go around.
it was just a cascading event of failures.
That's kind of derailed one of my Transferama ideas.
What you were going to have?
I wanted Judy. I had one planned where Judy goes into it's not an MRI machine. Never mind.
Oh, okay. Of course, I couldn't stop thinking of Wile E. Coyote and the damn magnet.
Where he straps it to himself and he's pulling him down the road. He feeds the road runner those pellets.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking of the electromagnet, my favorite
Yes.
Bugs Bunny one. We talked about that 3 weeks ago.
Wait, yeah, it was just
Oh.
a giant magnet that was pulling like satellites and crap in.
Yeah, that was my favorite. But we talked about it. Yeah, that was my favorite. Looney Tunes.
Yeah, but we
Lewis
talked
said,
about
"Thank
everything.
God for tonight." Absolutely, Lewis.
Absolutely. Was it like 3 o'clock in the morning there where they're at, or
They're about 5 hours ahead of us.
so about midnight?
Yeah, Lewis and Fidesco are together there.
Cool.
Yeah, it's probably midnight there. And rain, rain, rain. They live in Liberia,
Yeah.
but it just rains, rains, rains here too. So
It rained all day here. I woke up this morning 5:30 with lightning flashes outside, and it just went from there.
it started about two here, but it rained really, really hard. And I'm used to it being sunny all week and then just raining on Friday evening when I want to go outside and enjoy my evening.
Ah.
So
We get it kind of bad here because we have the two different air masses that come off the Gulf, and then the other one comes off the Atlantic that kind of meet right in the middle of Florida and just fire them up.
yeah, I can't believe you live in the state that has the most coast and you live like in the middle where there's no coast.
But it's an hour in either direction to the coast, so
Yeah.
Oh, that's not too bad, an hour.
It's more than an
I mean,
hour for
it's-
me, even if I had a car to get to the beach.
Yeah, you got that Colorado traffic.
Yeah. Apparently.
Oh, what do you got? One of my Grandpa Lloyd's 8mm plane reels.
Yeah, this is the Oshkosh from earlier. Like,
Yeah, that's where my
this
grandpa went every year.
Yeah.
Oshkosh.
that's going on what this weekend?
yeah, I think
this week?
this footage is from like a few days ago.
Well, of course you got. Well, no, it's Wisconsin. It might not be too bad. I'm just like the hottest.
Hell,
time of the year.
I watched where they landed a 747 there today or yesterday
Yeah.
or
There's a Bonanza.
Right side up.
Bonanza.
Well, what good is that? Any plane can land that way. There's Buddy Holly's plane. Are they going to reenact the last Buddy Holly moment?
Well, I gotta watch.
Well, they say a good
Some-
landing's anyone you can walk away from. A great landing, you can use the plane again.
Yeah, like look
That's
at this guy.
pretty
It's like-
good. One of them said that a landing is a controlled crash and a crash is an uncontrolled landing.
yeah.
that Bonanza may have actually been Steven Schreisenberg.
Ah,
I followed her for a little while. She lives in California. She owns a
a
Bonanza.
girl named Steven.
Stevie.
Why does she have a boy's name?
I don't know.
That's-
She got Stevie Nicks.
That's a boy's name. She's just being stupid.
Her full name is probably
Tony
Stephanie.
Tennille.
I think I kind of lost respect for her. Not that I respected her anyway. It was a few years ago when she said, "If I didn't have my abortion or all my abortions, you wouldn't have had all those neat Fleetwood Mac songs in the 80s." I'm just thinking,
That was her calling.
Shit. These guys seem to have some trouble landing.
She was hanging out with Tom Petty and his wife, and
Yeah.
Tom Petty's wife was real Southern accent, and she was saying something about she met Tom at the age of 17, and Stevie Nicks thought she said edge of 17. And that's
oh
where the
yeah, I
song-
did hear something about how that's that's pretty cool. Now that one stop driving my car around, that one that
Yeah.
so that was a Stevie Nicks song.
That
And
her and Tom Petty did together.
yeah,
Yeah.
but she just pursued
Whee!
him and he didn't want it. I don't think he wanted anything to do with her. She just
Well, that's why
wouldn't stop.
that's why Tom Petty came out with that other song. Don't come
Yeah.
around here no more.
Ah,
Was that really about her?
Yes.
Interesting. I didn't know that part of it. I love rock and roll stories, even if it's people I can't stand.
yeah.
The Eagles have a lot of interesting stories. I can't stand the Eagles, but I like hearing the stories. It's fun. I
with the
don't-
Eagles. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say with the Eagles, it's just half the band I can't stand. So
The Henley Fry.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
they
think
were the leaders.
Joe
I think
Walsh.
Walsh was okay though.
John Walsh was pretty cool. It was Henley and Fry were the king and queen. Let's just say that, and the rest of them were peasants. Let's just put it that way. I don't think any they were the leaders of the band, and the rest of them were just hired hands. Don Felder, Walsh. Uh, what was their original bass player? Randy Meisner, Timothy Schmidt, who took Meisner's place.
Actually, I found out, Stevie Nicks dated what's his name for many years.
All of them.
Ozzy.
No, the Aussie. From not Glenn Fry, the other one.
Oh God, I'm not gonna. I'm not. Look at this. I look like Roger fucking Waters. What is this?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing. Maybe you
As long
need
as
the
you
Yeah,
don't-
good that I don't have his money.
As long as you don't think like him.
Yeah.
Oh, Darren called me. Basically, said I was Roger Waters back in our Thunder, and I was. I was a jackass sometimes when it came to writing music. I was kind of like Roger a bit. But I saw the error of my ways, and now I just go solo and do my own thing. I don't play well with others.
Whoa, these guys are
Yeah, when
having
they-
trouble landing.
Roger Waters was talking to the producer when they were working on the wall, and he didn't want to work with the rest of the band, so they had to do it separate. And he told the
Nice.
producer, when you go work with Gilmore and all the rest of them, they're going to be a pain in the ass to deal with, and just be ready for it. And his producer went over there, and he said they were just nice and agreeable, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, I kind of heard that. Was it Bob Ezrin? Was that? Yeah, he was about to check himself in by the end of that. I think it was Roger. It kind of put him there, and I think we mentioned this last time. You saw that famous picture of them in about 2007 when they all four got together again and were all locked arms on the stage hugging for that benefit show.
Mm.
I still think that was the most wild thing I'd ever seen was the four of them. And
They
and it
probably
was
still-
do what?
I said they probably still didn't like each other.
Well, and the thing that was surprising, it was Waters that dragged Gilmore kicking and screaming to do it. I mean, Waters begged him, "Let's do," So that was it was kind of neat because I don't think Gilmore was a basket of cheese either. I think they all had but Waters definitely had the most issues of them.
Well, I mean, look, they drove Sid Barrett mad, so.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't do that. He did that to himself.
Or
Well,
maybe he took them with him.
The problem with Sid is he was doing acid and they were hanging around a lot of the wrong people. And his friends would spike everything that he ate and drank with acid.
Oh,
So not
nice.
only was he doing the substance, but everything he was doing was full of the substance, and that's when he went nuts.
Mm.
I mean, Waters idolized him. He didn't want him to go nuts, and Gilmore was his replacement. So there was a period of time in Pink Floyd where they were all in the band, and next thing you know, Sid was realizing he was being replaced, and then they were doing their show, and Sid would be in the front row of the audience watching them do their show, just staring at them. It'd be, they could make a really good movie on Pink Floyd, but I don't think any of them. You can't do it while they're alive because nobody would agree to
Mm.
put any of their dirty laundry. That's why Nick Mason's biography of Pink Floyd sucked. It's because he wanted all their blessings. So basically, he had to cut so many stories out of the book that it was basically a who's who. And Mike Woods was our lighting technician on this tour, and he went to Oxford, and he had a family of blah, and he drove a Volvo, and he was it was like a who's who of everybody that worked with him, and it's like, this book sucks. It's not like
What in the last sighting of Sid Barrett? Didn't he show up at like the studio and they were recording an album and then he just vanished?
No, it's better than that. It's almost poetic. They were actually making Shine on Crazy Diamond, which was about Sid Barrett,
Ah.
and they were recording that. And this bald guy walks in, and he's like brushing his teeth and doing all that, and they're like, "Who's that?" And then one, Sid. I think Roger started crying. I mean, that was pretty emotional, and that he was fat. He said, "You gained a lot of weight." He said that he had a big refrigerator.
Ah,
It
makes
was a
sense.
really that they were. I could say that, but kind of wasn't everything that Roger wrote about Sid pretty much, you know.
Yeah.
But Shine On was the one that was really, you know.
Something, speaking of old bands, something else I've started listening to the past year or so. I'm kind of liking the Fleetwood Mac with the Bob Walsh days, before Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks.
No, not Bob Walsh. Bob. Now what would you? It's Bob
Welch? No.
Welch.
Welch,
Bob
yeah,
Welch.
Welch, whatever. I was
Or
close.
like Hypnotized.
Yeah.
When they did
I think he
Sentimental
had a
Lady.
couple. He had a couple of the best '70s songs. Ebony Eyes, Your Eyes Got Me Hoping,
And you had what
and
Sentimental
also
Lady?
Sentimental Lady. You are here and which is a beautiful song. I love
Yeah.
Sentimental Lady. And then I tried to watch the music video for it. It was the most disgusting thing I ever saw. I mean, for one thing, the guy's not. I mean, the guy is just like he looks like a kind of a balding Don Knotts, which is fine. I'm not picking on the guy's looks, but he's literally tonguing a woman. They're tonguing each other for their.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is disgusting. What are you doing? This is supposed to be a beautiful, pretty song, which it is. What are you doing?
It was still, even in those older albums, you still hear Christine McVie, doing the backup vocals, and
I like Christine McVie. She was probably my favorite. She's kind of like a. Would Darren say? I don't know. He'd say it, but she's a kind of office hot. She's kind of middle aged.
mhm.
Wasn't sexy, but there was something kind of like an Alice from Brady Bunch kind of a thing going for her. She's kind of cool.
She didn't have that prima donna vibe about her.
Yeah.
No, yeah, she just looked like somebody that you would just see at a shopping mall, that kind of a person. I liked her. I just don't like Fleetwood Mac very much. I like, I actually liked a couple of their 80s songs. Hold Me was pretty good, and Love in Store. They had a few good songs from that era.
Well, now that she's gone, and now they just got the other four.
Are they still doing it?
No, I think Mick Fleetwood said that now that Christine's gone, there is no more Fleetwood Mac.
I thought there was no Fleetwood Mac as soon as they became Bill Clinton's official band. Because that song, I used to like "Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow." I liked the song, and then when it became their official campaign, all I could think when I heard the song and then was "Kiss It, Baby" and the cigar.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I'm not making a joke. I mean, really, that's all I would think about. And I hated the song, and I didn't have much to do. But to be fair, I think it was Mick Fleetwood didn't want to do any of that. He didn't want to.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't want to politicize the band. He wanted just to be the band.
And I would have respected them more if that was the case. I'm surprised they came out with rumors with all of that commotion going on with them. They were all hating each other and having
Well,
sex
the
with
whole
each
album,
other.
they based the whole album on hating each other. That's what.
I guess that's where the creative juices come. Oh, that's disgusting. Oh,
Every song on the Rumors album is about hating each other.
Yeah.
I can kind of see. I think I wrote my most beautiful song when Treble Clef and I broke up,
Ah.
and it wasn't about a breakup or anything. It's like I guess heartbreak can really spawn
Creative
stuff.
outlet.
Yeah.
I think so. But then this last album was my most prolific ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sad at all. I think maybe it was the gummies, but
You want to hear a sad story?
sure.
Kiana, my daughter, always watched me smoking cigars and made me promise her that when she turned 18, I'd let her smoke a cigar. So she turned 18 and I picked out a cigar for just kind of a smaller one. So we went out on the deck and we're smoking our cigars. And halfway through it, she's looking at the band and she says, Hecho in Cuba? I'm like, let me see that. I accidentally gave her my only remaining Cuban cigar that I didn't even know I had. That's
Well, at least you broke her in the right way there, darn.
yeah.
That's
get
kind of
more.
like when I was leaving Walmart and I was going up the side road that goes to Walmart, and there were these people trying to fundraise for a school function or a school trip or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I can give them a $5, I gave it to the lady. She's like, thank you so much. And this little black kid with her, oh, he gave us a 50. Oh, thank you so much. And I'm like, you're welcome. Enjoy it.
So
You made somebody's day, Timmy. You made somebody's day.
And it's worth it. It's worth the story. And I made someone's day that Whitey's not too bad. That like what I kind of thought.
Oh, good luck with it. But yeah, there's a phone app out there that people are using to report where they see ICE agents around. So this guy was going to a Walmart, and he gets the phone app and he says, "Oh, I saw some ICE agents around the Walmart." And the whole place empties out, and he goes in and he's able to shop. Didn't have to deal with any crowds or any lines or anything. It was just great.
There was an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm similar to that. The main guy realized if he started wearing a MAGA hat, people would just totally stay away from him. And he could enjoy his meals and stuff.
That's actually, yeah. And if you have like a pen camera that you put in your pocket, you get them cheap at Amazon. If they start making a fuss and making it, then you can put it on YouTube and monetize it.
Actually, I don't have the pen camera anymore. I have the camera that's in my sunglasses.
Oh, nice.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. You just
I need
go
to
up, push a
look into that
button.
because my pen camera, it took really good video.
Oh, these Ray-Bans that have the camera in there will kick the shit out of those.
Well, my pen cam, I liked it, but it's like my memory isn't as good as it used to be, and I'm just like, I don't remember how exactly to turn this on and which lights mean it's recording anymore. And that's we've actually got James Bond level gadgets, but it's like I don't want to have to look up instructions for this thing.
Nothing. You just you charge it up with a little USB, and you have a little SD chip in there, and you just push the button on the side on the top, and it just starts recording.
That means you got to wear dumb sunglasses, though.
Yeah,
but they're cool looking Ray-Bans. So,
well, the sunglasses I wear have to cover up my regular nerdy glasses, my driving glasses, so they got to be kind of.
Or you get prescription sun. But then again, but around here, a lot of the motorcycle guys will have a GoPro on the top of the helmet.
Oh yeah, we have them here too.
And I don't know what happens if you get wiped out. I guess it's uploading to the cloud or some crap. So if you get wiped out, at least there's footage of it.
Well, the GoPros are pretty shock resistant, so they'll take a crash. But the thing is I tied one to my kite because I wanted to get some aerial footage with my kite, and it broke my kite.
Oh,
it was just the GoPro weighs an ounce, and it broke my kite.
Like a mil-spec kite to carry the. Well, most people just use the drones now, the quadcopters.
Yeah, well, I got one now. I was getting ready to say I've become quite the pilot with my drone, and I'm actually thinking about going and taking my FAA Part 107 license to get commercialized. And
for what? Just to have a toy drone, you got to get a license now. I knew
to be commercialized, where you start doing it for business stuff because. A lot of real estate agents will hire you to come do drone work around, real estate, and especially down here in the hurricane, the damage assessment and stuff. Now they're hiring drone operators to come out and do, take aerial shots of, for damage assessment.
It's like my grandma and grandpa. They hired a plane or a plane, said that they'd go over and take a picture of their house for like, $24,000 or something
Oh,
like that.
nice.
So they
Yeah,
had
it's
like a
cheaper to
8x10 of their house from above, and it's like, you realize I could have just tied a GoPro to my kite, but it would have broke. So maybe they made the right decision.
Hadn't they ever heard of Google Earth? You know,
Now, this
Yeah.
was in the 90s, probably.
Yeah.
The thing is if you've got a drone on the beach, then people will frown on you because they think you're spying.
actually,
But you got a kite on the beach, all the women will just gush all over
what's
you.
really
You know what?
cool
I
is-
want a drone then. I don't want people gushing all over me then.
Yeah, you do.
so-
But
We went.
But
Yeah.
the app I use to fly my drone and stuff, it tells you what where it's restricted at and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
cool.
so even if you go to a beach, if that local ordinance says no drones, it'll flat. Actually, the drone won't even fly in restricted areas.
Yeah.
It's just
Well, that didn't happen with that New Jersey and all that with the drones going over the Air
those
Force
were
Base.
military grade, and they
But I told you a couple of weeks ago that at one of the car meets that I met a guy that he said that was his job, was like the
Mhm.
military drone reconnaissance stuff. I was just like, well, you're from New Jersey? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, so what's the deal with the drones? And he went on for an hour and he apologized like 4 times because he went so into the weeds about what happened. And then the next day he emailed me with another apology because he was so passionate about it. But in a nutshell, he said it was the Army being doofuses
Yeah.
and not telling the FAA what they were doing. They're
Yeah, that rarely ends well. Like we've just had very recently, an airliner had to do a real nice maneuver to keep from hitting a B-52 that was in the wrong.
up in
Yeah.
Minot, North Dakota.
I'm worried about that pilot because he got on the when they landed. He says, "I'm sorry. The control tower they told us to go this way, and we almost hit this bomber and this and that." And I'm like, "Oh, he spilled the beans before they had a chance to. The government had a chance to spin it."
That shit used to happen in the 50s. That shit used to happen in the 50s. That's what happened to Richie Valens' school. It was a fighter plane hit like a DC-7, and he wasn't at school that day, but it killed a friend of his, and it gave him a fear of flying, which he probably should have followed through with.
And I told you about that. I saw the first ever real account. A guy did a very good job about what pretty much probably happened that day that when all 3 of them flew feet. And it was that the pilot was a young student pilot, and he wasn't authorized to fly during weather, harsh
Yeah.
weather. And the people who were supposed to brief them on the local weather dropped the ball, and the guy didn't. He was giving the weather that instant right there, but he didn't say that there was this giant front that went all the way from Kansas that was coming in with snow. So I think if the guy had known that, he wouldn't have flown. But that's not what the forecasting did. So there was that part, and they found out that he was not authorized basically to fly, or whatever he might have been authorized, but he wasn't trained with the artificial horizon or the attitude gauge. That was it was archaic, the one that was in the plane that they were in. It was like had the total opposite function that they were supposed to, and that he probably wasn't even familiar with that one or something. That was kind of basically it.
So Gottschalk has a
Little drone.
okay. That was one of those toy robots from the 80s.
Oh,
Does the band come out? Does it expand, or is it just fly like
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, you see the fan blades that are folded back, and he's got like a strap.
So I
to
got
keep
a
it
little
from
thing
getting
that
busted.
straps my blades down so they don't get.
Pretty cool. It's a little bitty thing. Has it got a GoPro or a camera on it?
Yeah, it's got a 4K. It's got a 4K camera right
Yeah.
there.
Give me a link to that.
You always have to
I'm
put it like
interested
right
in
in front of your
getting something like
face,
that.
otherwise it'll
Yeah.
block it out.
And then it's got an SD, chip. I put 256 gig, SD cards in there.
Oh,
256 kilobytes.
And
No.
it's Stormtrooper
Yeah.
color, so that's good.
yeah.
It's what?
Don't get
Strong.
me started on the Star Wars colors.
Yeah.
Now I have
Might
been
be in
thinking about
white.
putting a stormtrooper skin on it. So
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
It's already
No,
almost
there's
there.
the guy who does like YouTube videos of motorcycling. He's got one, and he's got like a something he wears, and the drone will just follow him. So he
Yeah.
rides
So
a bike
actually,
around.
I've got follow mode on this too. I can,
Ah,
where follow me around.
and it'll actually follow either. It'll actually go out ahead of him and
Yeah,
film him.
you can do that.
Yeah,
Just a setting in my app that I fly the drone with, and
yeah. Because normally, you remember back in the 80s and 90s, they always had these things on TV. So, oh, well, I'm trekking through the tundra with my snowshoes, and they got a whole damn camera crew with hot coffee and every other damn thing. So it kind of
Oh, like
mitigates the effect of it.
what was it like? Those guys that used to test drive the cars,
Yeah,
Top Gear,
yeah.
the one where he was stuck on the top of the mountain or something.
Yeah.
They always leave a man behind.
But with that drone
Yes.
stuff, you can actually go out by yourself and trek around and get eaten by a bear, and you don't need a camera crew. And I guess if you get eaten by a bear, the drone will just kind of fly off and say, here's the footage.
wasn't there a guy in Alaska that was eaten by a bear? Well, I'm sure there was a few, but wasn't there a story about a guy who lived off the grid up in Alaska and got eaten by a bear?
There was a bear expert, and I heard the story, and they were up there with all the bears, and him and his girlfriend got eaten. I'm like, well, I guess you get what you pay for. But then I heard more about it, and it was like there was one grizzly that he didn't like the look of, and he was trying to get somebody to evacuate him for days, but it was going to be a week before they got there. And
Oh,
they didn't
okay.
make it. There's
There's called
a,
UPS to get them out of it.
I wonder if
Yeah,
the guy's
sure.
the father ever told him, he said, "You'll never be shit," and later on in life he turned out to be a pile of bear shit.
That's
there's
horrible.
there's lists of bear attacks on people.
Yeah.
And basically, I think it's Wikipedia. I don't like advertising Wikipedia, and it goes through time, and it's like every year. And the modern ones were like killed a hiker, and the bear was shot from a helicopter, and shot from a helicopter, basically. Then you go back in time in the 1800s, and it's like bear was killed with dynamite, or the bear
okay.
was killed. The guy
Shot
the
from
bear
a
attacked
balloon.
killed it with a knife.
Yeah.
Stories were better back in the day.
Yeah.
Or they had to go. Had
That's
to go up
one
in a
place I
balloon
will
and
not
shit
go
it.
is Wikipedia. I was at work once and we were in our chat having kind of our Wednesday, this breakfast call or nice, just relaxed meeting. And this guy was talking about something and he had me click on a link and I clicked and it was a Wikipedia. And I'm like, why did you do that? He's like, what? I said, you didn't click on Wikipedia. It's like putting my hand in a toilet. I got to take a shower now.
Now, I will tell you something about Wikipedia, okay? I never used Wikipedia for reference sources ever, but it was you could go to Wikipedia and see where citations were at, and you could go to those sources, if they were official peer-reviewed
I
sources.
won't even give them the satisfaction of clicking on it. I won't. I'll go somewhere else. And now Google, they use the AI, which I hate too, but you can't help that. It's like, so when did Ozzy floofy?
Yeah.
And then the AI will say what 3
What
o'clock
the
or
hell
whatever.
is floofy?
Yeah, and so I won't have to click on Wikipedia.
Well, if you don't like that kind of stuff, Timmy, I still have a big, huge box of those Britannica encyclopedias
Yeah,
back
there
here
you
if you
go.
would like them. You
Oh,
can have them.
I've got like 2 sets of encyclopedias already, but I do appreciate. I didn't like Britannica, because I liked looking at encyclopedias, and I'd go to the libraries, and the Britannica it was just all words.
Yeah.
Problem is you had to buy the new set every year, otherwise you had outdated material.
Or they'd send you the little yearbook afterward, but then
But we had
I
nobody ever
remember
got
doing
those.
that. My dad had like the things, and every year he'd get like a package in there, and you'd have to go
Yeah.
in there and like add the pages into the.
Oh, really? Had the binder? Well, with us, we had what was it, New Standard Encyclopedia? I've still got the set, and it came with one 1975 yearbook.
Yeah.
Must have been when my mom and dad bought it. But evidently, you could got a free one every year, and they never ordered a free one. But I'm kind of glad because just that 75, that seems like a fun, kind of happy year. And all they had, I swear, they had some famine pictures and maybe some soccer picture, from some football in Peru. But I would say 90% was just crooks, like business crooks and mafia and union crooks. It just
With
these
Al Capone and
yeah, this all of these guys that just look seedy, swampy. It's just like through the whole thing, it's just crooks. It's like, really, this is all that's I was around in 75 and there was a lot of cool stuff that didn't involve just these
well, it's
crooks.
because we
It's
didn't have.
there's always crooks. Why do you
Yeah.
give them a whole page?
Well, you know what happened in 1975, right? You know why 75 was so cool? It's because you really didn't hear world news or other national news,
Because the music was so good.
except for the 30 minutes with Walter Cronkite in the evening. That's the only time you heard about news outside of your like local area.
Boy, I heard he was a real butthole.
50,000 Cronkites.
Do what?
50,000 Cronkites.
50,000 Kronkites.
Da, da,
Ding,
da,
ding,
da, da,
ding, 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 ding. Did that come through? I don't have my musician thing
da.
on.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping it wouldn't. Oh well.
But
I'll
it
be right
wasn't
back.
until
I'm gonna
But it
take a
wasn't
pee.
until CNN came on, cable news in what, 82, 83?
You still watch that stuff?
No. I'm just saying it wasn't until CNN came on that you didn't hear about news elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, back when we were growing up in Aurora, it was the Aurora Sentinel, and you heard about the city of Aurora.
Ah. Good evening. Nothing happened in Aurora today. And now the weather.
Crickets. There you go.
I heard a cicada outside a couple
Yeah.
days
Oh,
ago.
boy.
That was nice. We get like one a year for about 12 minutes.
Ah.
Oh, they're all over the place here right now, little bastards.
These dudes. South Dakota. Or North
What's that?
Dakota. It was behind me.
What's that? Oh,
What happened in South Dakota?
Tony just plays random videos of stuff. And sometimes they're cool.
Looking at the screen, kind of.
You get to see your grandma dancing in this club in like the 1960s, back when she was like hot, and then he has this one of a Bavarian woman riding a bicycle that, Timmy's in love with.
Yeah.
Then you have the puppy one that Putt starts throwing up on, and
Yeah.
then you have the original Airplane movie, the one from like the 1960s that Airplane was based on.
Yeah.
Oh, airport.
No, it was
0 Hour.
0 Hour.
Dana Andrews and
The airplane movie was interesting because they wanted to do it without any comedic actors at all. So none of the actors in it were ever did anything funny before that.
oh, well, that was,
And then Leslie Nielsen just took off from there.
Yeah.
yeah, he'd
he
never
said,
done
"All right,
any
this is my
comedy
thing."
before that. He was always like Mr. Square, straight arrow guy. Although I guess he did get a tiny bit of humor in Forbidden Planet.
But I don't think it was supposed to be for like comical.
Yeah, it wasn't laugh out loud. It was just him, lightening the mood sometimes. As you do when you're in a spaceship and you're visiting a weird planet with a weird.
What do you think about the new?
Chick.
What do you think about the new Naked Gun with Liam Neeson?
We asked it because ain't none of us are gonna bother watching it.
And then I also saw they're rebooting Tremors too.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the original cast a lot. So
Yeah, Tremors. The original Tremors was good. I think the first place I ever saw it at was your trailer there.
oh, really?
Yeah, in Jacksonville.
Cool. I'm gonna move back into that trailer if I can find it.
Oh.
Sweet. That
Now,
was
who
kind
had
of
a
a cool
trailer
trailer.
just disappear?
The key
Oh,
the
Timmy's
key to
not
living
here.
in a trailer is don't have kids.
Yeah.
Then you can not trash it and it's okay.
Yeah,
Well,
ask
I've
Timmy
seen-
when he comes back because Timmy had the story of somebody who had a trailer and then the trailer just disappeared.
That was probably me. I moved out and I went and told the trailer park, we're moving out, but I'm going to keep paying my lot rent and I'm going to, get the trailer fixed up and sell it. So as soon as we moved out, they hauled it off.
Well,
And
yeah,
then when
Darren asked me to
and
come
then-
over and feed his fish.
And then I went to send him a check and they're like, why are you sending us a check? Well, I said I was going to. Well, we didn't think you really were.
Yeah, Darren called me to come over and feed his fish, and Darren says, "Oh, did you feed him?" I said, your trailer's gone." It's not funny. It's,
I felt bad for the fish.
yeah, I kind of felt bad for the fish too. They had like a 800-gallon tank or something.
Yeah.
Here's my my prize
in
from
front of
that
your
trip
face.
to Jacksonville
Ah.
when I went and saw Darren.
Hemorrhoid.
No,
Yeah, that's what he had.
I still got this thing of
Ah,
I
shark's
can't see
tooth.
it.
it's a
But
claw.
when
Oh.
Darren and his mother and stuff took us to the beach and we went shark tooth hunting.
Oh, like
Mom
sand
had a
shit.
big. Oh, and you just dropped it and lost it. My mom had a giant jar of them. She had some huge ones, like megalodon ones.
He's the one
Yeah.
that taught me how to frickin' look for him.
I've still got that jar.
Oh, do you? Hang on to that.
Yeah.
Um,
Megalon
So-
did.
I was thinking about Meatloaf's marriage while I was in the kitchen. It's funny when I'm in the kitchen, the things I think about. She's like, "Honey, will you take out the trash?" I won't do that. I had to been get. I had to got old after a while, I would imagine, But
Yeah.
When they,
No, I won't do that. Not that I sound like Meatloaf in any way, shape, or form. But
Yeah.
when they hired him for Fight Club and he showed up and he wasn't fat, they were so disappointed. They had to make a fat suit.
that's pretty funny. The guy that lives across the street from me looked like Meatloaf.
Ah.
did
And,
Meatloaf die on stage or something?
No.
I think it was
You're thinking
recently,
of
the last year or so.
That was a
Yeah,
It
couple
was
years
during
ago.
COVID.
Yeah.
He said from COVID.
Well, but everybody who died in those years died from COVID.
Yeah, I
We had
know
a
they
guy-
would just mark them as
We had
COVID.
a guy in Cortez, Colorado that blew his head off with a shotgun, and he tested positive for COVID. And I mean, this was on the news, and they told him to put it down as a COVID death.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
there
because
was
they
one
got
guy.
like what $40,000 from the
Yeah,
government for every
yeah,
COVID.
Yeah.
yeah.
But no, there was one guy who had COVID and he was up on the roof fixing the roof and had this bad coughing attack and he started coughing so hard he fell off the roof and died. And it was a COVID related death.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I don't like is like when there's a hurricane, somebody will be driving on a wet road and not paying attention and floofy themselves on the wet road, and they call it a hurricane death. It's like, no,
Well, would the road have been wet? If it wouldn't have been for the hurricane.
it's them being not knowing how to drive.
Yeah.
If a tree falls on them on the road, then yeah, that's a hurricane
Or a
death.
cow.
Tornadoes,
Or flying sharks.
Yeah.
flying sharks.
Flying sharks,
I kept waiting for like one of those. What was the sci-fi? Those original sci-fi.
Sharknadoes.
Yeah, where it was like a tornado goes into a water treatment facility, and they call it shitstorm.
Oh, there you go.
Shitstorm.
I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Anybody remember that movie from the 70s, Piranha?
Yeah.
I didn't watch those kind of movies. I remember it being there.
I think Piranha 2 was James Cameron's first directing job.
Oh, really?
I think so.
He did True Lies.
Yeah,
That was the best action movie ever. And
His first big blockbuster, though, was what? Terminator, wasn't it?
right. Yeah.
who did Wiffle Weapon?
I don't know. Oh, James Donner did the same one that did
Oh,
Superman.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people consider, I don't know, a lot of people, I consider that like the first movie of the 90s, even though it was in the mid 80s. Because, I mean, it was one of the first.
The original Lethal
Action.
Weapon came out in 1984.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
no, it was more like 87.
No, it was 84.
Look it up. Look it
I'm going
up.
to.
wasn't that early. Darren and I used to watch it because we thought Peter Cetera was the bad guy. It ended up being Gary Busey. He just looked like Peter Cetera.
I'm not falling for no
Oh,
banana.
you're right.
Joe.
1987. Damn, Timmy. All right.
And then Die Hard came out, and then that just sent it into orbit. I mean, that was when it's like, wow, there actually can be action movies with comedy and actually be entertaining.
Lethal Weapon was good. Lethal Weapon 2 was all right. I could have dealt with it, but they should have stopped at Lethal Weapon 2 and just.
I agree with it. I liked Lethal Weapon 2. I just thought it was a little over the top with
When they
their.
had Joe Pesci in there and
I liked Joe Pesci. I just thought they went over the top with the
Diplomatic immunity.
the political apartheid thing. It's just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and when you watch, it was the same director that did Scrooge, and I love Scrooged, but it's like you see all these posters that he just subliminally puts in there about ending apartheid. It's like, really, Christmas
Richard
movie?
Donner was his name. That was the
Richard,
that,
yeah, because I always get him mixed up because you remember Exodore from Mork and Mindy. I think his name was Robert Donner. He was in the Vanishing Point too, as one of the.
I mean, without the
guys.
reboot of Trimmers, how many Trimmers movies are there? They're like Trimmer 16 now or something, or
Was it Darren that
He's
said that
5 or
every new
6.
Tremors has one less person from, or that like change lead roles?
Yeah, it's
to
always
our-
like the number 2 lead will take over the next movie. So the first one was Bacon.
Kevin Bacon and what's his name? The two guys.
And then
The
the
other
second
guy.
one was that dude Fred Ward or whatever. And then
Heath
Michael
Floofy, the
Gross kind of got
Mexican-ish
the
looking
star in
guy.
one. Well,
That
Michael
wouldn't be
Gross
'cause
was the lead in one of them. I remember that.
I've only seen the first one, so I wouldn't have come up with that.
I saw the second. Okay, so it was Tony. I saw the second one. The guy that looked like Luke from Dukes of Hazzard, that was in the first one.
Well, the gun nut that lived in the basement with Reba
No,
McEntire.
not the guy from Family Ties, but there were two. There was Kevin Bacon and his friend.
The big square
Fred-
jawed
I'll
guy. I
just
think
call
his
him-
name
I'll
is
call
Fred
him-
Ward. I
Okay,
think.
it just kind of reminded me of Luke from Dukes of Hazzard or something.
Yeah.
But he was the lead in the second one.
Yeah.
But what was it, Michael Gross, the guy from Family Ties? He was kind of the second lead since Kevin Bacon wasn't there. And then
Yeah.
I guess from what you said, Tony, in the third one, it was just
Yeah, I think he ended up being like the main character. He just kept passing it down from.
Well, he really let's just be honest. He was, even in the first one, he stole the show.
Oh yeah.
You what was it? You broke into the wrong goddamn rec room. That was probably the best line of the movie.
Yeah.
Darren and I saw the premiere, at least the Jacksonville premiere, and there were like prizes under some of the people's seats, and I ended up with a floor mat,
Ah,
a Tremors floor mat, and it said perfection, population 13, and with the line through it saying 12 or something like
Yeah.
that. It had bite marks all around. Is probably a collector's item. I still got it.
yeah.
Did I go there with you?
Mm-hmm. And we always went to those Rock 105 premieres.
I thought we
No.
did, but you got the floor mat, and I don't remember going, so I figured I must not have gone that night. But maybe I just didn't have anything.
Actually, the Trimmers
It was
reboot.
under some seats, but I ended up getting the floor mat. I never won anything before, so it was special.
The Trimmers reboot's actually going to have Kevin Bacon in it.
Oh, okay. So that's not a complete catastrophe.
I think
And
we did go to one. It was a movie. The title was unbelievable. It was called One Good Cop,
Ah,
and it
yeah.
had the guy from.
That's a pretty unbelievable title.
I know it was unbelievable. It had the guy from Mr. Mom, and
Oh.
and they had a radio DJ or something that wanted the people in the audience to give like a cop quote. You know, if you're a cop, to say, people are like, hands up for us. I think Darren raised his hand and said, "I don't have to pay for these, do I?" These donuts." I think he
That's
either
good.
said that to me or out loud. I don't remember, but it was. It's just one of the things. And then I remember the movie it started out with this fight on an elevator with a lot of when they hit each other, it's like bam, bam, and it's like exciting. And the whole rest of the movie was him trying to get custody of his kid. And it was just like a Kramer versus Kramer thing. And it was just a lot of paperwork and seeing social workers. It's like, that's why you don't hear about that movie,
Yeah.
because it was terrible.
No,
Yeah,
when I
behind
was-
me,
the
this
first
is the
time I
movie
moved-
that this is
ahead.
the movie that Airplane was based on.
Oh, cool.
0 Hour.
Zero
Is it a
Hour,
comedy?
1957. Say actually the Zucker brothers bought the rights to the script for this movie. Used some of the lines directly.
Yeah, oh, it was almost a play for play through the whole movie. What were you saying
Yeah.
there?
I don't remember. The first time I moved out back from Florida, I wanted some sunglasses, and I was like, I'm going to get some free Rock 105 sunglasses. So I went to the radio station and asked the receptionist. I told her I'd like to buy some Rock 105 sunglasses. She said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't sell them, but I think there's some back here. Let me go look." So she gave me my free glasses.
Wait.
Pretty cool. She gave me like Viagra samples.
Yeah, there you
No.
go.
So
You know,
there's 7 Trimmers movies.
that's too much. 2 was too much. I mean, 2 was okay. The second one was okay.
Because they always introduced a new creature for each one, and so it's like they're running out. It's like, oh, this one,
Yeah,
they're like
Tremors
months.
2, they were all a bunch of little
Yeah,
like lobster size, and they weren't worms anymore. They were like lobsters, and the thing I liked about it is they traveled south into Mexico,
yeah.
and the scenery was beautiful. It was a lot of I didn't realize that it was a lot of green hills, and it was really pretty. That's what I remembered most from it. Um, uh, there was another premiere we went to called Working Girl. It had Harrison Ford.
Ah,
And we must have gone a half an hour into the movie, and the movie stuck and it melted. It was like
oh,
big bubble and it broke. And they were saying, well, the good news is we can get it fixed. Or we fixed the film. The bad news is we have to play the whole thing over again. And I was like, and they're like, well, you can either watch the movie over again or you can go to any of the other cinemas in this complex and watch that. So everybody left. Not one
Yeah.
person wanted to see that piece of shit again. And Darren and I watched the entire, because I guess the timing was good. We watched the entire Back to the Future 2,
ah.
which is a pretty kick-ass movie. I thought it was better than the first.
It was kind of dark though. It was a lot.
It was dark,
darker
but
than the first.
it was good. I liked
Yeah.
that. The only thing we didn't like, I mean, I think everybody groaned at the end when they leave you hanging and you have to watch the next movie
Yeah.
to know.
You ready to listen? You ready to listen to Timmy scream now? I'm reading it right here. A Land of the Lost reboot is currently in development at Netflix with Legendary Television producing and Sid and Marty Krofft attached as executive producers. The reboot will reimagine the classic 1970s sci-fi series, which will follow the Marshall family's adventures in a prehistoric world filled with dinosaurs and other strange creatures.
It's not what Land of the Lost was even about.
Yeah.
It was
Sid
like
Marty Krofft, only one of them still around, so there's only one of them.
it was an enclosed universe that
Yeah.
had dinosaurs and things from the future. It was just like it wasn't prehistoric. Oh, for fuck's sake! Stupid
Well, I
asshole.
wonder if they'll have Will and Holly like
Kathy
having
and Wesley.
sexual
Did you know
tension
that they
between
made
them.
a cameo in the Will Ferrell movie?
good old Will
It
Ferrell,
was
but
a
it didn't
dumb
make
cameo, and they didn't even release it. It ended up on the cutting room floor.
yeah.
And it was when when Kathy was going through her phase where
Yeah.
she didn't look like Kathy anymore. Something happened to her for a short period of time. I don't know what happened. If she was sick, I don't know if or if she'd been under the knife. I don't know what happened, but her face was swollen and red and weird looking. And every once in a while, like if you Google her, most all of her pictures are pretty, but then you'll see a couple. It's like, oh, that's from when this happened, and that's when all the clickbaity people that say we're the Land of the Lost now, and they put that picture up to make her look
Yeah.
like some monster. And I yelled at them once. One of these people that did that. Why would you post a picture where she's sick? You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was. I don't know. What were we talking about? That stupid.
A new Land of the Lost.
That their head writer David Gerald, who I get, he's the one that wrote Trouble with Tribbles for Star Trek. So I had sent him a Facebook friend request a few years ago, and he accepted it. And somehow it must have, we were only friends for like a day or two, and he posted this thing about his rules
Ah.
that you basically, if he says something, you've got to agree with him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Makes
And you were
sense.
like, I'm out.
all this, yeah. So he starts posting, what was it? It was something political. And I kind of, it was one of the news of the day drive-by kind of political thing. And I
Yeah.
just posted a picture that contradicted everything he said. I didn't even say anything.
Yeah.
And then it was the time when Neil Young wanted to be kicked off of Spotify because they had Joe Rogan on, and Joe Rogan said something about that he didn't want to be vaxxed. So Neil Young wanted to be taken off of Spotify.
Ah.
And then David Gerald says, we all need to be more like Neil Young. And I put the barf emoji and he unfriended me. And some woman, some old bitch, just out of nowhere gave me a Facebook message because strangers can't just send you a Facebook message. They got to send you a request. And she sent me a request, says, you really are a stupid idiot. So I posted it on my Facebook. I took a screenshot of her and her name. I named in shame. I put that up there and said, I just got this. And even, what's the guy's name that does the indie filmmaker that makes Tony, that makes the sci-fi movies? The black and white, like Ed Wood.
Shalom or
Oh, Tony knows him. Eric,
oh,
Buffalo.
Eric Buffalo. Yeah, I know him.
Oh gosh, you got to know his name. He Captain Isotope.
Oh, Eric Buffalo. Yeah. He's got
Well-
this Norwegian last name that's like.
Well, anyway, he
Yeah. Captain Isotope, and then what was it?
I just know he was in Buffalo.
Okay. What do you
He's a
do?
big wig in our circle, Molly's circle, and
Yeah.
everything in
Mhm.
Vortex. But he ended up, first time ever he saw that post, and he told me that, yeah, David Gerald, he said that he'd said something about the Tribbles thing, and David Gerald got so offensive and just, how dare you, and blah blah blah, and just tried to rip him a new one. And he said didn't say anything bad about it. The guy's a nutcase.
Yeah.
And he wrote the worst Land of the Lost episode ever. And on there, he was doing the director commentary on their DVDs. It was a terrible episode. And I hate it. And he said, oh, this is the best that, I've never had anyone complain to me about the episode. It's just perfect. And I'm like, and I publicly, because I know he's on the Land of the Lost board, I've seen him. And every time people mention that, I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's the stupidest episode ever.
Yeah.
I just make sure he knows it. Because it is. It was an episode where Enoch just sees this rerun of them going over the waterfall. And at the very end, they realized they thought it would be the last episode of the series, that they were going to cancel it. So basically his solution is that that the marshals died when they floofied when they
Oh,
went
of
over the
course,
water.
yeah.
Replaced by new marshals each episode.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah,
you
that's a good
atheistic
idea.
son of a fucking bitch. You're gonna our little kids, have to put up with your atheist crap,
Yeah.
And I don't care what he believes, but don't force that on the little kids and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just dumb.
I did something like that. Not really though. Back in the AOL days, I would talk on the Robert Heinlein boards, and that was about all I did. And I had a couple friends on there. And one day I got bored and went to the Lord of the Rings message boards, and they were it was, I don't know, it was annoying because they were like, we need some kind of HOA or government for the message board so they can have rules and everything else. So I made a new account called Sauron's Kid and went in there and said, there is a new government. It's me. From now on, I'm in charge of these boards. And some of them were freaking out and you can't do that. And I did that for like a day or two. And then my friend from the Highline board, one day I was logged on as Rayleigh and my normal self. He pinged me. He said, dude, I know you don't go to the Lord of the Rings boards, but you got to go there. There's this guy's new down there and he's just so funny. I said, hold on a second. I'd logged out and then logged back in on my Sauron's Kid account and said, hey, how's it going? So he had no idea it was me.
Oh, you should have, instead of saying how it's going, you should have logged in the store and said, I'm ruler of you now.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
One ring to rule them all, you know.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, you liked the book Time Enough for Love, and then I had mentioned on the ELO board that I liked that book, that I read it, and it was the only book I read all the way through. It's like 700 or 800 pages. It's like a Bible. It was so long. And some guy, I remember his name, was Coach Jim. He was tearing me a new one because of that one part. I won't even mention what the part is because everyone knows what part it is. And he's just like, it's about this. I'm like, well, you didn't read it then because it's not about that.
Right.
It's about a guy that lived 4,000 years. If you live 4,000 years, there's probably going to be something you do that's kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Right.
But I miss those old alt boards. They call them alt boards.
Yeah.
But I know what you're talking about. I went to a Pink Floyd one, and I felt like I was in Munchkin Land in the Oz. It really was. There's these people arguing and blah, 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 blah. I was just like, I'm going to slip out through the back door here, and I'll just pretend I didn't even show
You
up.
guys remember that there was a community board back before Facebook and stuff like that. And there was different community rooms, and you could have your own little avatar, and there was like a chat window off to the side and stuff. And I can't remember what the hell that was called. But my avatar was like a person with a bag on their head. It was just the little holes cut out. It was a little brown bag with little holes cut out, and it was
Pretty cool. You're the what was it? The masked comedian.
Comedian, yeah.
What was that on? Was that on? I know what it was on. Was it Night Patrol? It was one of those 80s kind of B cop movies. It was funny. It was a funny movie. But you're telling
I thought the masked comedian was on the Gong Show.
You know who the original masked comedian was? Because I'll say my friend. He's not really my friend. He might as well be my friend because I drove him to I drove him to his hotel an hour and a half. So I'm going to call him my friend.
Yeah.
It was Steve Katz, who was the co-founder of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. So I've got his autobiography, and he was friends with this man, this tall blonde guy, handsome guy. But he was his agent made him put a mask or a paper bag over his head to do his comedian stuff. And that was his gimmick. He wouldn't let him take the bag or the mask off, whatever he had. This was in the 60s. And
Actually, it wasn't the masked comedian. It was the unknown comic.
Yeah, that was Murray Langston was his name.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, eventually one day he saw him. He's like, you don't have the mask on or the paper bag on. He's like, yeah, I don't work for that guy anymore. Or he let him do it. Anyway, it was David Saul who ended up being Starsky and Hutch. That was the punchline. It wasn't much of a story. But I was going to say something about these alt boards that was kind of my favorite memory. It still makes me laugh. Somebody on the Moody Blues, because these middle-aged women, they were so obsessed with like John Lodge or Justin. They were just obsessed with them. And they're the reason that, Justin wouldn't go out and meet any of us probably is because of these raging, crazy women. And there were a lot of those on the message board, but I did love the message board. But one time, one of them was panicking and said that John Lodge and maybe a black celebrity or comedian, I don't remember who it was, they were on a golf course and somebody started firing shots and they had to duck. Because there were gunshots going into the bushes. And I commented that it must have been Patrick Moraz. He was the keyboard player they fired. And The women didn't like that, but the men did and kept
Mm.
building off it, joking. And this message board went for acres and acres. It was just, and I think I had just make the one joke that set it off, and I didn't say anything else. And I remember years later in Alabama, you could go to archive.org and look at the message boards, and I was able to
Ah.
trace it and go back to that. Oh, there's that one where I said that one thing, and you could just watch that going, 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 going. It just didn't. It was so funny. I was an instigator that day. It was a proud moment.
Yeah.
The reason why they went so long back in those days because you didn't have a million people on the on there at one time. People come in 2 days later and go, what the hell, start typing and
Yeah.
It was interesting. We didn't have that kind of like the oh, it's dark here.
yeah, it's dark outside, Timmy.
It's still like noon where Darren is.
Yeah.
Wouldn't matter.
Yes.
It's a thunderstorming.
Hey, any update on the
46.
house situation?
Yeah, just spending more and more and more money every day.
Ah.
They get
We're hoping to get it listed again next week or start showings again next week. Replaced my carpeted stairs as you come in the door with hardwood.
Ah.
Oh,
Same.
people like that.
Hopefully, yeah.
I never understood carpet. I just don't. I guess when I was a kid, it was this part of everywhere we lived was carpet, but I just like, I don't get it. It's kind of like having a vinyl top on a car. I don't get it. It's not like you're gonna play Twister or do gymnastics on top of the car.
back in the 70s and 80s, we had that extra thick, shag carpet, that,
Yeah.
No, we had that in a couple of places, the green and blue mix. Oh, I went to this car show. Speaking of shag carpet and vinyl roofs, I went to this car show, the Cars and Coffee Sunday, and we were wrapping up, and it was so hot, and this guy came up and said that this was a star of the show, right? I'm like, well, that was nice. There were two McLarens there,
Mm.
so that makes me feel good, at least in somebody's opinion, that car was a star.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. It definitely stands out, that color.
Yeah.
Why?
What's that?
Why?
White? No, dingy
Why? No,
Star Wars
why?
stripe.
Why?
Oh, I thought you said white. I don't know. It's just that orange. It just stands out because it's
Oh,
not
is it
even
orange?
like a what?
Yeah, he
I
didn't
thought it
take
was
his pickup truck to the car show.
Every picture I take of it, it turns it red. It's not red. It's they call it calypso coral. It's a reddish. It's generally colored.
Ah.
Oh,
It's
really?
yeah, it's kind of a reddish orange.
The-
Do what?
The editor keeps color correcting it because he thinks it's supposed to be red.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I've got it when I like post a picture of it or something, I've got to go into Photoshop and turn it back to orange again. Because it's not like safety orange. But yeah, it really stands out. And I did a faux pas when I was at the car show because the guy had a 67 Cougar. And they share a lot of body panels with my car. They share this windshield. There are a lot of. So I was, really impressed with this car. And I was like, do you get the sequence tail lights and stuff? And he opened his trunk and said, yeah, but I can't get it to work. He showed me the box and his wire harnesses and beautiful car. But and later on, I was kind of, when we were walking away, we were walking by this Chrysler, a 66 Chrysler that was kind of a beige with a black roof, but it wasn't vinyl. It was a slit top, but it was painted black. It was a two-tone, what they called it back then.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I really like this. I hate vinyl roof. That's what he had on his Cougar. I said, well, I hate because I had a personal experience. I was with my mom's Cutlass, and it was a school function, and I had all these other students, and we were going over the Danes Point Bridge, and the roof ripped off, and it was so embarrassing. So I kind of saved myself, I think. But the
Yeah, and
moral
in
of the story
Hawaii,
is
everything
don't
with
talk.
everything with a vinyl top just rotted out. I mean, there's
There's this
nothing but
rust that
under
goes
vinyl.
out the bottom of the, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I just never understood it. I didn't think they were pretty. Like
I think
Dad,
people thought
he was
back
so-
then
he was
thought it
so
looked like
happy.
a convertible or something. It's just silly.
I guess. Somebody asked the guy with the Chrysler, "Oh, is that a convertible?" It had a metal top. It's a car that's as big as a football field. It had a metal top that was painted black. They asked if it was a convertible. Who?
Or maybe they thought it was one of those Ford Sunliner things.
That was like one model that lasted 2 years in the history of the automobile. A retractable hardtop. That was it.
Well,
Well,
no,
yeah,
they,
but
they made a
maybe it
comeback in the
didn't have-
aughts.
Do
It
what?
didn't have if it didn't have B pillars, maybe it would. What was it? Hardtop convertibles? Isn't that what they're called?
Jerry called it
No,
that.
that was when they first came out with the hardtop. They started calling it the hardtop convertible, like back in '49. But that name didn't really stick. But you still see
Except
it
with
like
Jerry
on
Pruitt.
Car Gurus or some shit.
Yeah, they called them hardtop. So technically, my Mustang is called a hardtop because
Yeah.
there's no B pillar.
Right.
Even the fastback, which is the popular one, they've only got pop out rear windows. So I've got the only model that you can roll all the windows down. And our cousin Jerry was showing off his '70 Cadillac, beautiful car at the time, to my mom's boyfriend Nick. And he's like, "Yep, it's a hardtop convertible." And I'm looking, the fuck you say? And I told my
Yeah,
dad that. And he's like, "Yeah, that means that it doesn't have the B pillar." And I'm like, "It's
Right.
not a convertible."
Yeah,
Even calling
it's
it a
an
hardtop
archaic
is
term.
weird.
It's an archaic term.
Even hardtop is weird. I've got to tell people mine is a hardtop. Well, even a
Yeah.
fastback is a hardtop. I mean, it's a weird. They should have had a better name for that. A breeze. Call it a breeze. No, a breeze through.
No.
But then you're thinking of
That was the
Mercury.
Mercury with a back window that slid down. I actually got to ride
Again,
one of
it's a
those
one.
once.
It's just one make. I don't know.
I think Lincoln's had them too.
They put this like Jerry. He had beautiful cars, mostly Cadillacs, and he just put them out to pasture to rust and rot. Tammy said when they after the house burned down, when the city made them clean up their yard, they had like 16 cars to get rid
Oh
of,
wow!
something like that. I think, and somebody else said like 8. So you never know with that gang, but um, I sometimes wonder if the city was so harsh on them after the fire, not letting just because it was an eyesore for the whole neighborhood because of all the shit, the junk there.
Well, generally what happens is you're grandfathered in like codes.
They were
and-
grandfathered in, but they said, "Oh, you're no longer grandfathered in."
That's what I'm saying. That's where
not
I
how
was going.
grandfathered in works.
Give me a second. I was getting there. That, older houses that were built, before certain fire codes and other codes and building codes was done. And then when the building is burned down or leveled out, now you have to build the property up to what the current codes are.
Yeah, but the only thing that burned in the house was the garage.
Doesn't matter.
I told them, "Well, just put a new roof on and make it a shorter house and get rid of the garage. The rest of the house was okay." It kind of, I don't know, Darren, I don't know if he feels the same way. I was like really crushed by that. It was like a gut punch because that was the only house that was from my childhood that I could see anymore, It
Well, I
was like
felt bad for Judy, but I don't have too many issues nostalgia wise.
oh, I had a huge issue with nostalgia. I felt bad for Judy too, but yeah, I mean, that was it. There was nothing, because, after the divorce, that was a tradition. I would drive the 17 hours, or I guess it would be over 24 hours before I would get there. And then it was always the same thing. I'd pull in and wouldn't have to knock. I'd open up that squeaky door, and Big Judy would be like, "Oh, hey, so how was your trip? So would you like tacos or hamburger? If you want tacos, we got to go to the store and get this." And it was the same thing every time. And then I'd crash on her big, comfortable bed and just like
Yeah.
stacked out for like hours. And then I'd wake up and she's like, "Well, Tammy and the kids came over to see you, but you were asleep, but they're still over there." It was the same thing every year. And it was just a memory that it was always something I could look forward to. And when I came home from the trip, I would just be glowing for weeks from it because it was always just going home.
Missouri has the
I didn't
lowest
want to get all
tobacco
bushy.
tax.
Do what?
Missouri has the lowest tobacco taxes in the country.
Ah.
I discovered that.
Well, you're not still doing that stuff, for you?
Cigars.
Yeah, not cigars too much. I bought a bunch of them like 10 years ago, and I was smoking 10 or 12 a day. Now I'm down to about one a year.
Ah.
I used to smoke
And
cigars quite a
Kiana
bit
smokes
too.
those for you.
But no, snus, stuff like that. Just
Oh.
nicotine pouches.
Oh, okay. I just do the gummies and a bit of rum.
I think my favorite cigars back in the days I smoked cigars were the Maker Marks.
Ah.
I don't know that I had one. I like the Terranio Exodus 1959s.
Yeah, that's good. Aren't they
Yeah,
made
right.
here in Florida?
You should be doing
Probably.
Habit. You should be doing Habitampa since you live down there.
Should do what?
Habitampa. Don't you remember those cigars?
Vaguely.
I used to make the cartons for them, the paper cart that Habitampas.
Ah.
I had a temp job in about 1989, 90, and it was one of the worst jobs I ever worked. It was assembly line. It was because the job itself wasn't bad, but I would have to get up and go to work at 5 in the morning. And I remember every day hoping I would die in a car accident on the way because you never get used to it. I mean, I really did. And then this one asshole boss, fat fuck. So there was a second in charge, some foreman or something. There's really nothing for you to do. You just go around and just push a broom, just pass time. That's fine. So I was just pushing a dust mop around, and the big boss, this fat bastard, comes up to me. Hey, he grabbed my broom. Look at this, and he's like, does this look? If you saw me doing this, and he starts mocking me and stuff like this. And that's probably the only time in my life where I wished I'd have gone to jail because I would have liked to have just.
Did you just not come back to work after that?
I quit shortly after that.
Yeah.
And there was a guy that looked like Jim Neighbors there, and he was gay. I knew he was gay. And
Was it Jim Neighbors?
well, Jim Neighbors was too, but this maybe that's why he reminded me of him. But he seemed like a nice guy, but we only maybe talked once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
And I was leaving, and he says, I'm going to miss you. And I was like, I'm going to miss you too. It's just one of the few things I remember. And there was this other woman there, and that guy was chewing her a new one too for probably no reason. And she was in tears. What an asshole. He's going to hell.
Yeah.
I really
I
felt
thought
like
he did.
slashing his tires or putting a potato up his tailpipe. I really felt like, I still, and it's what sucks is I still hate that guy. After 35 years, I still think
Yeah.
about that sometimes. I guess that's natural.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Oh, and he looked like a Cabbage Patch Kid.
Oh, okay.
If he'd have said that, and that's what you think at 3 in the morning sometimes.
Yeah. Staircase wood.
I just said, well, I would have thought, there was a Cabbage Patch Kid pushing a dust mop.
Yeah.
Well, then I wouldn't have gone to jail. I'd have just gotten fired,
Yeah.
Which wouldn't have bothered you, though.
It wouldn't have bothered. And I got a ticket, my first ever speeding ticket on my way home from that place.
Hmm.
Motorcycle caught. And I had to go to one of those driving school things.
Ah.
And didn't have to, but it helped. You didn't
Yeah.
get points taken off if you went. So that was the only time I ever went to one of those driving school things. It was fun. You just watch movies of like the Simpsons animators doing like Simpsons people having accidents and stuff.
Ah,
It's
okay.
funny.
Oh, they didn't show you like the real dead bodies and all that stuff.
No, and Tony did this. Darren, we had a couple of years ago, we had our Christmas special. It was like Christmas, a couple days before Christmas, and we had our BabbleGab thing. And Tony behind him, instead of this movie, he had some movie from the 50s that they showed driver's ed with real bloody carcasses.
Yeah.
Well,
And
you
that
don't
was
get
it.
more
Sorry.
Christmassy than that.
Do what?
You don't get any more Christmassy than that.
I know, and we were
Yeah.
like, well, Merry Christmas. I mean, literally, I was like, Merry Christmas, everybody. And there was like this bloody, like the headless person there while I was saying it. It was disgusting.
It was probably one of those movies we watched in, school that they had brought the projector.
I
in and
watched
played
some.
with it.
I watched some crazy stuff in Driver's Ed, but nothing that graphic, and that was from the 50s.
Yep. Signal 30. Famous movie.
I never had driver's ed, but my daughter is right now out on her first driving instruction. So somebody's out there teaching her how to drive for a couple hours.
Oh,
Best of luck.
Somebody who's not me, which is ideal.
Mm.
I was telling someone at church, someone that was from out of town, they were talking about how his daughter was like a prodigy, like singer, and he's worried about her and stuff like that. And we kind of talked about that kind of thing and this and that.
Mm.
Somehow the conversation got to, because his wife was a teacher, and somehow that conversation, teaching people that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, people, because that's something I cannot do. I don't have the patience or you got to be someone special, be a teacher. Because I've had like friends come over, oh, can you teach my son to play guitar? I'm like, nope. But you can play all this good guitar. Nope.
I kind of have the skill a little bit. I can teach the neighborhood kids to stay off my damn lawn.
Oh.
The Gran Torino. You know, Tony wouldn't watch Gran Torino for years because he thought that they were going to hurt the car.
Well, I assumed they were going to wreck the car because they always do.
That's Tony's pet thing. He cannot stand to see a classic car get put into a crusher or any kind of. He didn't like seeing classic cars getting cut. Even instruments. That movie that I did the last page of summer, I was going to have a scene where Terry's going to ask what happened to his guitars, and Tracy was going to have taken him to the laundromat, and we were going to have his guitars tumble around in the dryer. And Tony protested. He said, "I don't want to see instruments get hurt like that." So I changed it to have them hanging on the clothesline.
Yeah.
I'm not picking on Tony. I think that's commendable. Yeah.
I'm kind of
fun fact that
I
this
can see
dude on the
that.
TV here, he's singing some goofy song. That guy on the TV was the guy who did the voiceover intro for the TV series A-Team. In 1972, a bunch of guys, including one goofy guy, stole a bunch of gold from it. Yeah.
Oh,
If you
private
remember.
mercenaries who go out and be as flamboyant
Dum.
with their.
hey, Darren.
Yeah, they're
I stopped
if
watching
you
that.
don't jump in there and just talk, they'll just keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I stopped watching 18 when I realized nobody ever died.
But no, Mr. T didn't want it. They would fire 18,000 rounds per episode. They wouldn't hit a damn thing.
Tell him why.
Kind of like real life.
Tell him
'Cause
why
they
Mr.
were-
T didn't want it.
Because he was a
'Cause his grandma.
stormtrooper in the original Star Wars.
Was he?
Because his grandma watched. He didn't want his grandma seeing people getting blown to bits.
Isn't that
Yeah.
the stupidest thing ever? I would have said tough luck. Make your grandma watch something. Make her watch Sesame Street then.
All right, so Tony, are you familiar with Singer Porsches? So I'm wondering how that fits into it. So there's a generation of Porsche from 911 from 89 to 92, I think, 93. And they weren't well loved by Porsche folk. But there's a company that takes them and tears them all apart and totally upgrades them, and they're classy. They're not over the top, but they're beautiful. And then they end up selling for like $500,000 to $1 million,
Oh, there you go.
and they're like works of art. But you're technically destroying a classic car, kind of.
Yeah.
But you're not really. I mean, you're not just smashing it; you're making it perfect. Because I
Yeah,
love those
well,
cars. I'll never
that's
have
fine.
one.
You've
Well, if
got
they're
one.
80s cars, it doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? But
Oh, don't
No,
say that,
no,
Tony.
no.
Darren's got an 84 Carrera. That's his pride and joy.
That's the best car in the whole history of the planet.
Okay.
Tony didn't mean Porsches. He meant like.
Most other 80s cars, I would agree.
Well,
yeah.
I think Tony would agree. And the Porsche that Darren has is a 1963 with updated bumpers.
And updated engines and everything.
Well,
else.
yeah.
But yeah,
I
but
mean,
yeah,
his
it's
car
basically.
is-
And a
his car
longer
is a 60.
wheelbase and some rust proofing, which they've eventually figured out how to make them, how to apply rust proofing to them. Because the
We
old
watched
ones, boy.
Darren and I watched the video for I saw her again last night from the Mamas and Papas, and they were all driving up to a boutique in their toys.
Yeah.
One of them had an XKE, one of them had a motorcycle, and Mama Cass Elliott came in with her Porsche. It was like Darren's. So she had
Those
good
are
taste.
surprisingly
They all had
roomy.
good
I remember
taste in cars.
the first and like I think the only time I ever sat in a 911. So the used car lot back in the late 70s, and it must have been maybe a 72 or 73. And this was before power seats and all that. So what I normally do, I'm 6 foot. I'm not a basketball player, but normally, I reach in and hit the little lever and slide the seat all the way back, because that's usually what I have to do. So I did that with the Porsche. I got in, sat down, my feet wouldn't reach the pedals.
Right. Yeah, the sports cars or the fancier ones, they kind of make them with athletes.
Well, the
and
German
stuff in
ones, I think
mind.
they make them for those
Yeah.
big, like,
Oh yeah, that too.
Remember that piece of shit Audi I used to have? I'll give it one thing, is it had room
yeah.
for a little
Well, even my
car.
Bug,
Inside of it was so, I mean, there was no, the back seat. You could play basketball in the back seat. It was a compact, and it was. I'll give it that.
Well, even my Beetle. I mean, it was narrow. I mean, it would, if I had another big dude in the passenger side, then yeah, we'd kind of get much. But as far as headroom, legroom, it was fine.
Yeah, I won't give, and it handled great. I just wish it didn't have I just wish I'd never got it. Other than
Well,
that,
the problem is it was an automatic, and back then, small car automatics were just hopeless. They would
Yeah,
just
but they
suck
had
away
more-
all
it-
the
it had more
horsepower, and they
problems.
were troublesome.
Yeah, but it had more problems than just the transmission. It was just a piece
I know,
of
but
shit.
it just made the whole thing just kind of feel.
And my grandma would say, "Oh yeah, that Audi was a lemon. It burned oil and this and that the day we got it." And I'm like, well, "Why did you push it off on me then?" And then she'd start fighting with me. It was just it was a nightmare sometimes.
Well, the thing was, my first car was a '69 VW Beetle, and then I got, my parents bought it as a second car, and then it came down to me, and then my dad buys a 1975 VW Rabbit, and somehow between 1969 and 1975, they forgot how to build a car. They absolutely forgot how to build it. The Beetle was built like a bank vault compared to the friggin' Rabbit.
It was the hippies.
I guess. Now the Rabbit was fun to drive. It was a stick, and it would go fast. But God, the paint faded immediately. It was red, but even for a red car, it faded fast. And the exhaust system was nothing but trouble, and the heater would. Yeah.
Mila, my maid of honor at my wedding, she had a Rabbit, and I guess she rear-ended a truck and broke her neck and the damn thing. I guess she was okay because she helped break up my marriage. So,
There you go.
she recovered.
Well, the Rabbit wasn't bad. It was just the 75s were the first and the worst year, and they got better because we also had a 79 Rabbit.
It's bad news to buy the first year of any kind of new car.
And of course, my dad, being my dad, he bought the one that they brought in as a loss leader, to advertise. Oh, you get this car for only $47, and it had like cloth seats, rubber floor mats, and drum brakes on the front.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, 1975, they're still fooling around with drum brakes. Like, really?
Tim's Audi had the fabric equivalent of a chalkboard.
It was horrible. Well, by the time I got it, you didn't have to worry because it was just the foam that popped out of it. There was no fabric of the seats left. I had to put towels and tie towels down to the seats. Piece of shit. Boy, I didn't. When Lloyd had it, my grandfather, before I ever had the car, I was like, what a piece of shit. That thing's got like 250,000 miles on it. He just needs to junk that thing. And he's like, before I junk this thing, would you like to have this car? Yeah, would you like to have this car? She. And I was afraid of him pretty much. I was afraid to say no because he was really the only guy that we knew that was kind of a father figure that knew about cars that could help us pick out a car. And this, I was afraid to say no. And
Hey, Wendy.
Oh,
hi, Wendy Lou. But yeah, so that's my excuse that I took
Yeah.
that car, that let him give it to me.
Yeah.
Because his one thing is the transmission is going to fall out of it, you see? So you're going to have to put
Yeah.
a new transmission in.
You
And
see?
you see? And
Yeah.
that's basically what happened is I had that car for a couple months, the transmission went out, and it was middle of winter, which would have been April in Colorado, which is still, that's a middle of winter there. And we put in a transmission together. Now with an Audi, you had to take the engine out to get to the transmission. What a pain in the ass. So I had to pay all this money when I was
That's
like
right. It still
16 years
had
old.
it wasn't a transverse engine, right? It was this.
It was front wheel drive.
I know that, but the engine was oriented front to back rather than transverse, right?
I thought it was sideways, to be honest. I can't remember now. It's been so
Yeah, because
long.
I think the Audi Fox and the VW Dasher, they called it here, had
Yeah,
the
they were
engine
same car.
longitudinal. Because the Rabbit was a transverse, and that one, the transmission was just as easy to take out as the engine was. You didn't have to take the engine out first.
But it was nothing but trouble.
Yeah.
And I did have a couple good memories. The first good memory was I had the car before I had my driver's license. And
Ah.
I had it facing downward out the driveway. And I remember when I finally got my driver's license, it was school lunch. I guess I rode my bicycle home and I got in the car and I was legal. And I just remember the first time I was by myself and put it in gear and got up. No, I didn't crash. I went out in gear, and that was something I'll never forget, that feeling
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
freedom. And, just, and
And
the other
nowadays,
was
they're not
my mom
excited to
standing
get
at
their
the front
driver's
door with
license.
a tear in her eye when I drove. I was 16 and drove all the way to Missouri to visit my dad from my mom's house in that Audi, and it did good. It wasn't always bad.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could go back time, I would have
Well, when
told
you're
Lloyd.
that age and you got a car and it actually runs, you're feeling pretty good.
I was one of two kids in my whole sophomore class that had a car, so no complaints there. It would have been better if Lloyd was a Chevy guy instead of a German car guy. Nothing
Well,
against
I've
German
had,
cars, but when you're 16, German cars aren't old. German cars weren't a good thing.
unless
should've
it
got a Porsche.
was a Porsche or something like that, but that would have been a whole different kettle of.
Well, even a Porsche for a
Some fish.
16-year-old isn't a good idea. They're just, I just, a Mercedes, any of that.
Uh,
There's some Mercedes that are absolutely gorgeous that I love, but
I was
Gracie
thinking
bought a Mercedes, but
Yeah.
one of those 50 Gull Wings ones would be a good first car.
Yeah, there you go.
But,
But,
Darren, did you see that? Tony probably knows what I'm talking about. There was one that came out the same time as the Gull Wings, but it didn't have the Gull Wings, but it was basically, it had that body,
Yeah.
but it had more of the pedestrian undercarriage and engine. It was a cheaper Mercedes, but it looked just as gorgeous. It had the same body as the
Oh, the
racer.
190. Yeah.
Was it? So that
It's
would have
like
been
scaled down. Yeah.
Yeah. So that it was a good looking car. I mean, gorgeous car. I mean, and it had that Mercedes detailing with the leather and
Yeah.
everything combined. It was beautiful.
Oh yeah. It
But
was a
it wasn't.
four-cylinder.
I don't
It
think it
had
was
a
as high
reputation.
maintenance as the dang racer.
Yeah. It had the reputation of being the kind of car a rich guy would buy for his girlfriend. Not very fast, but good looking.
I wouldn't be his girlfriend even for that, if that means anything.
I'd have to see the car first.
Mercedes-Benz 190 SL. It just looks like a
Okay.
baby gull wing without the gull wings.
I think one of
But,
the prettiest. They made them into the early 70s. There were a couple beautiful Mercedes. One was
Well, not the exact
little
same
one, the
body style.
convertible?
They went to more squared off.
but even Darren and I saw one at the a car show in Denver. It was this gorgeous. It was an early 70s Mercedes. It still had the wraparound windshield and the workmanship of the interior is just
Oh, yeah.
gorgeous. And Mark, my big brother Mark, took me to some exotic dealer one time, and I got to sit in one of those. What were they, Tony? The sporty Mercedes from the 60s, early 70s.
Well, well, they were all called SL, so it was
SLs.
whatever engine.
And I just
Yeah,
remember
SL,
telling Mark, he thought it
230
was funny because the door handle was like way over in the corner.
Ah,
And I remember opening the door to get out, and I'm like, I feel like a rich person, having to
Yeah.
reach out there to. He thought that was funny, but I don't know if that was the same time I gave him that distasteful joke
there you go.
when we were in the bookstore.
But,
Remember that? I told you that. I said, because think of this. This is the time frame, 1983, and we're in the bookstore, and I was like, I heard a joke at school, and it's probably really distasteful, and I shouldn't say it. I was like, well, let's go ahead and say what it is. I said, what kind of wood doesn't float? And he says, what? I said, Natalie wood. And he just starts laughing, and he starts telling me all these Helen Keller jokes
oh, goodness gracious.
in the bookstore. I thought it was funny. Never really.
I haven't heard that one in a long time.
Probably since the last time I said it on the show. But Darren hasn't heard some of these anecdotes
That's
probably
true.
in
That's true.
30 years, so I was kind of repeating some of them.
Yeah, just keep bringing it back. I mean, it's always somebody's first time. But on Facebook now, there's this thing that they're raffling off like a VW bus camper, and they raffled one off, and then they raffled that off, and then they got another one. I think the first one was like yellow, and this one's like orange. And God, I wanted one of those so bad 50 years ago. Still wouldn't mind.
That'd be a good car for Florida.
Well, it'd
No
be a good
hills.
car for me. It'd probably be bigger than the place I'm living in now.
Well, if you can find the little Matchbox version of the little VW van, that's the one that had the windows across the top,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
worth
that's the
like
early style. Yeah,
that's like
those
worth
are
a crap load of money.
huge money now. If you get one of those, if you find one of those with the the little windows in the roof and all that crap, the
Yeah.
people ask just insane amounts of money for those things. And they
Just do
call
a
them
Sawzall and make
sambas
your
now.
own.
And I never heard them called a samba in my whole damn life. And then all of a sudden they call them sambas. Like, huh? Goofy.
Yeah, I have a friend out here who's spent the last couple of years restoring a VW van for his granddaughter.
Hope she appreciates
How's it going?
Probably not. She's young.
See, that's the problem. Is
Is-
you try to fix up a car for like a kid. It's unless you like clear it with them first.
Right.
Because I heard a story about some dad, because he always loved like Model A Fords and stuff. So he Model A or a 32, and so he gets his son a Model A Ford and all restored and all that crap. And he found out later the son was in high school. Found out later the kid would drive the car 2 blocks away from high school and walk in so nobody would see him in the car. He thought it was that stupid looking and dorky. First off, I would have kicked the kid across the street, but
Yeah.
Oh. All right. What were you talking about?
kicking kids across the street. But no, that raffle thing on Facebook, there was another one. They had a VW camper, Westphalia camper bus, and they gave that one away. Now they got another one. And if I didn't hate wasting money, I'd love to like buy raffle tickets for that.
You think it might be a scam?
No,
I've heard it advertised on the radio too. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
the same deal.
yeah, it's a company or a magazine or whatever called Van Life. And the thing, all the pictures, it looks really super nice shape. And the one they got now is like a 76. So it's got the Type 4 engine, the bigger engine.
Oh, it's a vintage.
Well, yeah, they don't make them no more.
What?
VW campers?
Yeah, they do. They call it a California camper. It has a
They don't
tent
sell that
that
van
pops out the
anymore.
top and the back. It's
Yeah.
the reason I
Yeah,
know
but
about it
it's-
is because I watched some random YouTube video and it was about.
Now, this
An
is a
English
real
guy.
one. I wouldn't be talking about a new one. I mean, it's like, who cares?
Well,
Right, that's
there was this
probably
English-
water cooled, right?
What?
No.
Probably water
This
cooled.
is still the second generation van that I'm talking
What-
about.
No, the one Tim's talking about is probably
Yeah, that one-
water-cooled,
that
so
was
it
the-
doesn't count.
it doesn't count.
VW came out with a kind of a weird front wheel drive van for a while. I didn't know they were even still in production.
Well, my grandpa gave me his microbus. He said I could have it. It was a 60 or 61 microbus. It was pink and white, had the pop out sunroof thing, and
Oh yeah.
The interior was like an airplane, the way the wood was contoured, really neat. And by the time I came old enough to drive, Darren and I were actually, and this friend he had that I didn't like, we were actually gonna take the car and do something with it. It had mag wheels, and all of a sudden, Lloyd, for the first time in his life, changed his mind because he always gave cars away and then would regret them. But this time,
Nobody ever gives me
through my
any.
grandma, he's like, okay, but he said he wants the wheels back and this and that and the other. And we're like, well, screw it. That was the best part of the thing was the wheels. We were going to make it into a cockroach and paint it like a roach with the antennas that came back.
Oh, there you go.
It would have been pretty cool. Of course, we didn't take it because he changed his deal, and then he ended up just junking the damn thing. I don't want to get into that. I was in the kitchen thinking of not Meatloaf's wife this time. I was thinking about that Audi
Ah,
and how Goshawk or one of you had mentioned that hardly anybody in a sophomore grade had a car, and that I was only one of maybe 3 people that had a car. I even remember the 2 guys that did, and it was pretty cool. But then in a junior, I was like, when I was a junior, I was one of the only ones that didn't have a car. I had a 10-speed then.
yeah.
Because the insurance, but for my birthday, they raised my insurance just to an outrageous rate.
You.
I think they raised it to
Yeah, the only
$1,200 a
VW.
year, and
Oh, yeah.
this was in 1987 for a 17-year-old. That was I was already working just to afford insurance, and so I gave up the car and rode a bike, and I was fine because because as a junior, I'd done most of my credits and I only had to do half a day of school. So I could go home
Hmm.
before 1 o'clock and watch Dick Van Dyke, and I could just have these short school days. It was wonderful. Then I moved to
Hmm.
Jacksonville. Not only did I have to do full days and do study halls to fill in the classes that was like a prison, but there were no windows in the entire school. Piece of shit place. Hate it.
Yeah, the only VW van the actual van that they have now is the electric one. That's 60 grand. In case you're interested.
Well, there's
It's like,
another one. It's because
I'm looking at
I
their
saw a video
official
on
website.
YouTube last week, and there was a guy who had rented an electric van to go through England or Scotland or something, and it was a nightmare. It was a VW electric van, and they couldn't get it would take like 12 hours to charge the damn thing if they could find a
Wow.
place to charge, and it was just terrible. It was a nightmare. So then he went to the dealer and asked if there was something else, and they gave him a diesel van that was called a California Camper. But it ran on diesel, but it was a new VW too. And he said it was wonderful. So it was just kind of like it was kind of one of those horror stories about electric
Yeah.
vehicles kind of a thing. So I
Well,
mean they
they've
evidently
got
make
like
it. They might not sell it here, but they sell diesel vans
yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, because here, I mean, they've got several SUVs and stuff. They're like have noses, so they're like tall station wagons. But
This one, this is like look like a van some kind.
yeah.
It had camper. It had a camper pop up, and it had things that popped out. It looked kind of nifty, like it'd be fun.
Because they used to have the VW Eurovan, but that hasn't. I don't know if they still make it, but they haven't brought it into the United States in a long time. That was the front wheel drive van.
My grandpa had this thing. It was called a Carmen Ghia,
Oh yeah.
and it was like a little. It was like VW tried to make a Porsche, but it wasn't. And
Yeah, it's
it
just
kind of
basically a
like
Beetle with.
it's shaped like a cloud, and
I
it's
think everybody
like
here knows what a Carnegie looks like.
yeah, but the because I think when Gracie and I had come out there, it was after Lloyd had floofied, and I think Grandma almost gave us the option, or she might have given us the option of maybe having that car, but it was like I would have been afraid of her driving that because it's like the A pillar is right by your face. It's like I was afraid when
oh,
she had do what?
I don't think that would matter. I think if you got in a wreck in it, you just die.
Yeah, I think so.
You don't really need any specifics on why.
Yeah, I know. It's like I was afraid when she had that Miata. I was afraid for her life.
Well, you're
That
right.
part-
You're right, Timmy. I'm looking at the press release for Volkswagen's new California camper van.
Yeah,
Gets
went
more
out of
space
production
and
at
hybrid power.
4. Oh, they're
What?
going to
What?
bring it back because the one they had was last produced in 04.
No,
Yeah,
they
this
got a
this
new one.
is
It's a van and it has a pop out camper. It kind of looks neat.
yeah. It's this story's from May 7, 2025.
So is it based on the electric one?
Yeah, it's Volkswagen's new California camper van gets more space and hybrid power. Each trim comes
Hybrid
with
or
a
full
rooftop
electric?
tent. It says hybrid power.
Well, the guy in the video said it was diesel powered, so I don't
Yeah.
know. He had a
Well, everything's
much better
available with the
experience.
diesel. Everything is available with diesel in Europe. It's just the United
Hey, what
States
about
people
that
don't like
Jaguar
diesels.
with I don't think Jaguar will be in business by about 8 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, they're already pretty much cooked themselves. Yeah,
Well, they were pretty
that
much
ad
cooked,
campaign
but
was,
then it's like, hey, well, how do we kill it off with that stupid
Yeah.
I
well, that
of all
commercial's
their
been out for a
legacy,
year
100-year
already.
legacy, and then
Yeah.
they're gonna a
Well,
stupid commercial.
commercial was part of it, but another part of it is they kind of shut everything down because they're switching to full only electric cars.
Yeah, which nobody
And so
wants.
this is like the transition period, and then right as
No,
electric.
even Dodge now, the Dodge Charger, they had this big thing. Oh, we have this electric Dodge Charger, and it even has a noisemaker, and it makes it sound like it's got a V8. Really?
Yeah, well, I think the Trump
they didn't
administration
sell for
kind of
shit, so
stopped the subsidies for that. So
How
I
about
think-
Yeah.
How about Harley Davidson coming out with the all electric motorcycle? Yeah, that really sent people over the edge.
well, they
Yeah, I
went
don't think
woke
the neighbor
pissed
would want one of
everybody
those.
off anyway.
I don't know about a Harley, but an electric motorcycle wouldn't be all bad.
Oh, except that it'll break your shoulder.
Yeah.
So here you go, Tony. The new camper will go on sale with 3 powertrain choices shared with the multivan. The 4-cylinder 150 horsepower turbo diesel
Mhm.
and the 204 horsepower gas engines power the front wheels. The new plug-in hybrid option comes with a 4-motion all-wheel drive and 245 horsepower.
Don't get that.
It can also tow up to 4,409 pounds.
I think that's really why what's his name? The South African guy got mad at Trump. I think it's because he wasn't gonna do his subsidy thing.
Yeah.
I think he was mad that they went through all the Doge stuff and they didn't end up cutting hardly anything.
As a matter of fact, added more money to the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I that too. You know, I think there was a few different things, but he kind of he did the somebody said he did a nerd rage. You know how
Yes.
nerds just start going you got it like I do, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a super nerd. I like him.
Yeah, I
like
think
him
he's
a
on
lot,
like
but he's a super nerd.
I like him, but I
He's
never
also on
even
ketamine.
ever since the H-1B thing, I didn't trust him.
Yeah.
It's like
I watch his rocket-
he bought Twitter to make it even-handed and this and that. And as soon as people started disagreeing with him about the H-1Bs, I'm going to ban you and ban you. I'm like, what? Are you... It was funny because I'm not a Twitter person, but it was kind
Yeah.
of.
I watch his rockets take off about every 3 days from Cape Canaveral or whatever it is.
Why are they shaped? No, it's the other guy, the Amazon ones that are shaped like penises.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those are
launch
the
from
ones that go
Texas.
into space because there's a certain altitude where you can call it space. It's like 50 miles up, and they go 50 miles and 5 feet. Oh, we're in space now, and then come back. We're spacemen. Sure, you're.
Yeah, Katy
Katy
Perry.
Perry's an astronaut.
I didn't even know who Katy Perry was. I thought she was someone from Friends, that TV show, or so. I had no idea who she was until that controversy came around. There's Katy Perry right there behind Tony. We're not in space. We are in space.
That was a scene
We
they
are in
parodied
space.
that in Airplane where they had everybody in the whole plane come and hit the.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
see there, that's what it is. It was a play-by-play. Airplane was.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of disillusioning a little bit.
Well, was the first one supposed to be funny?
No.
I don't think so.
So
I was
Airplane-
disappointed with this. It's like Austin Powers. Austin Powers I thought was hilarious, but it's like every single gag was taken from the Coach one, the Coach movie. Barry Maguire, Mr. Maguire.
Oh,
I don't know. I know
Jerry
watching
Maguire.
yeah,
those
which
old.
wasn't even a '60s movie, so why bother?
I know watching old comedies from the 80s and stuff, and it's like, I don't know how I found this hilarious back in the day. I did, but sure not
Drugs,
funny
you
now.
know. We
But
were on a lot of drugs.
Airplane holds up, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, but Airplane was like 78, wasn't it? 78, 79?
79 or
Something like
80.
that.
I thought it was 80.
I think. Yeah,
79
Yeah,
is
the jerk
my
was
guess.
78 or 79.
Jerk was funny. God.
Jerk wasn't bad. I watched that recently.
You know, I looked up Steve Martin's books because I've got Cruel Shoes that you sold to me, Darren, and I've got Pure Drivel. And I love them both. And I tried to look to see if he had more of these books, but they were just novels. They weren't short story books. I'm like, damn. Damn.
Come on, Darren. What are you talking about? Movies from the 80s. We can all walk to Buckingham Square and watch Treasure of the Four Crowns again.
oh, there you go.
Does
There we
Darren
go.
remember that?
I remember. I don't remember anything about the movie, but that walking there to see it now
God.
rings a bell.
Rings a bell. I'd like turned blue, man. That was horrible. It was one of my worst memories ever. It's like,
Why?
and we've said this 100 times on this show, but not with Darren here. But it was, I guess it was us, and I remember JJ. Remember
Dynamite.
JJ?
Dynamite.
He was kind of a stinky fat guy with curly hair.
Yeah, I remember the show. Dynamite.
No, not. Anyway,
now you know how
I
it
don't have
feels.
great
Yeah.
memories of it. I don't have great memories of him because if I would say something to me, like ask me if I care, he was just an asshole.
Yeah.
But we all went to Buckingham Square in the middle of a blizzard. And just to give you a little background, Buckingham from where we lived was like 150 miles in the snow.
Uphill.
So
both
we got
ways.
there. We got there. We were all snowmen, which is fine. That's part of being in Aurora. But we sat there and watched this 3D movie. And when the movie was over, we were thawed out and soaking wet. So we had to go home at night in the same blizzard, soaking wet for 150 miles.
Uphill
Boy, I
both
hate-
ways.
You know what would really suck, Timmy?
What?
Well, you know, during a blizzard, what would happen if we would have got to Buckingham Mall and they closed it down because of the blizzard and we had to, turn around and
It probably would have been better because we wouldn't have had time to thaw out and it'd be like 30 degrees colder at night. And we're soaking wet. I didn't want to
walk.
a damn movie anyway. It was y'all's that went. It's not my kind of movie.
Those great
I don't know
movies.
why I went with you guys.
Let's see. We
Got these 45-year-old memories.
we all went and saw, Hot Dog the movie and Up the Creek and
I never saw any of those.
Hot-
you
Hot Dog was
watched the
kind of-
fun movies without me.
Yeah, well, Hot Dog had like chicks in it with like boobs.
Yeah. Well,
We
so
did
did Up
see-
the Creek.
We
Oh,
did see a movie in Aurora Mall together, and I don't remember what it was. It bugs me. It was like a Star Wars ripoff with a kid, and the kid said
Oh.
"damn." He said "damn" at the end, and that was the whole lure of the. It was even in the previews. He says, "Well, we'll get some damn fighters," and that was it. We thought it was the stupidest movie in the world.
Yeah.
And they had that one, the spaceship that was also in some other cheap movie. They
Oh,
used
the one
same
with Battle
model.
Beyond the Stars.
Yeah, I think so.
The ship with the boobies on it.
Yeah,
Do you remember what the movie was, Darren? Because it's racked my brain for years now.
no.
You can't Google it. What was the stupid space movie in the 80s where the kid says "damn"?
Well, you can Google Battle Beyond the Stars. What other movie uses the same ship models?
Oh, I'll have to look at it. But I remember when
figure
we
it
were on, one of the reasons I remember it is because we were on our way home and there were these tornadoes forming.
Mm.
And Gottschalk tried to calm us by saying those are cool air funnels. And I'd never heard that term since or before. What are you doing? You're like
It looks so weird when you do that.
You're air punching. What
You
is
gotta
this?
get a real computer.
I'm typing on my keyboard.
But
You
you're
gotta get a
not.
real
You're like
computer.
typing in the air. You're like air guitar, but air key. That's nerdy beyond nerdy.
That's what that goofball we had on the jewelry show for a while. That dude who lasted about 6 weeks. He would say, "Oh, you can check it online." It's like you don't have to demonstrate. You Goober. God, I couldn't stand that guy.
Actually, that ship was used in several different movies.
Of course.
It was reused in several films, most notably a movie called Space Raiders.
Oh,
And
that
then it
might
was-
have been it.
And then there was one called Galaxy of Terror, Forbidden World,
Oh,
and the
wasn't that?
Adventures of Tara.
When was Space Raiders? Was it 83 or 84 or 80? Because that sounds familiar.
That was 83.
That might have been it. It might have
And the
been
little
Space-
and the little and the poster for it has a little kid on there.
Oh no!
Is he saying, damn it?
Yeah, just say
just the
damn it
poster
for
with
the
just a kid
tagline.
and then damn it.
That's even
My
worse
daughter
than what
was-
happened.
My daughter
Thanks.
was 3 and she went over. Well, I don't know if I told you this story, but she went over to her mom's and stepdad's, and her stepdad said shit. And she said, I don't say shit. I say damn it like my daddy.
Hee hee. Yeah, they're always reusing stuff. It's like Young Frankenstein. They actually used a lot of the props and sets and stuff from the 1933 Frankenstein. And what happened was the set designer in the 33 movie didn't get credit. So they gave him credit on Young Frankenstein, decades later. So he got credit for his work. He just had to wait for
After he fluffy.
That's cool.
I don't know if
One
he was
time,
still around.
One
Like
time,
40 years
Darren
later.
Googled. Sorry. One time, Darren Googled, damn it. And it came up with a Legos. Somebody made a picture with Legos showing Han Solo and Chewie and had a turd. You're like, damn it, Chewie.
No, yeah. Princess Leia Legos is lifting up her foot and she's got like a brown thing on it, and Chewie's blurred out in the background.
He's like, damn it, Chewie.
Well, it was tough when search engines first came out. It was tough if you liked a band called Mr. Mister or the, because there's no way. Nowadays,
What do
Google
you
will
mean,
actually
what do
figure
you
out what
mean
you're
when the
trying to
internet
say.
just came out? It's still hard to Google some of those band names.
Yeah, sometimes, but nowadays it's just no results anymore. Or it's
Borrowed
did you
a-
mean? Like I'm
borrowed
trying
a
to find
pressure
out if somebody
washer.
used a particular play of words, and they say, "Oh, did you mean?" No, I meant what I did say.
Oh, just type in BabbleGab. Do you mean BaffleGab? No, I don't mean fucking BaffleGab.
Oh, I get that
no,
too.
you do
but
that
I
on
try to-
YouTube, and the first thing
That's what
is
I
like
said.
Booble Futz, and it's
Yeah.
like but it's sponsored. Yeah,
Oh, that's yeah. Maybe we should sponsor this.
yeah, there you go.
At least every other week we do this. It's the same thing, Darren. I mean, it's just the same Zoom link, but we'll do it on the Transferama channel, and we'll get a few people in the chat. And I know we said hello to Wendy Lou, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't follow up with it. Wendy Lou is my friend, and we go to the Comic Cons together.
Oh.
Cool.
Where are you going to next?
I don't know if I'm going to go to any this year because we said that what was like Happy Days and Mork are going to be the only ones at these Florida ones this year.
One
No,
here,
it was weird. It was Weird Al and Happy Days. That was it.
Oh, okay.
and then this year in Ocala here next month they're going to have Katie Sackhoff there, so I might go to that one.
Back of what?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wendy
So
Lou.
what's
Darn is my
happening?
brother Darren. I think she missed you before, but she's a good friend of mine. She's Ratchet, my bass player of Treble Clef. His wife, he passed away a few years ago, but we've remained friends and go to Comic Cons, and she hangs out at her show.
So
We have
what's
fun.
happening next week?
Cool.
Either you're going to be gone, or who's going to be gone?
Yeah, I'm going to be gone Saturday to the following Sunday. But have I ever missed a BabbleGab? I do
Well, that
it
was
when
going to
I'm
be my
there.
question, because you just said it, and then I go, really? You're going to be like,
I'll be there. I'm sure I'll figure out a way to do this.
And sometimes you're
I'll-
only there
I'll
for
run
like an
the
hour.
This time I'll tell you that I'm running OBS.
Oh wait, she says I have thought about Fanboy Expo because of Weird Al.
Ah,
Would you go all the way there to meet Weird Al? I like one of his
Depends
songs.
on
I like
Weird.
Hardware Store. It would be cool to see Weird Al. I mean, it would be cool to see Happy Days. It's just, do I want to paint myself up for an hour and go through all that?
Can't
The
you
last
just
time we
go
went
and
to,
enjoy it?
it was tough. The last time me and Wendy went to one of these, I had painted myself green before the trip because it takes an hour to do it. It's better to do it before I even leave the house. And then it's like I got to pee halfway there. It's like, well, what am I doing now? I'm green. And
Pea
fortunately, we
green.
snuck into a Burger King, and I was able to use the restroom and get out without anyone seeing me. But it's like,
See,
I guess I got to.
that's the beauty of living in Southern California. You could do that, nobody give a crap.
Yeah, Wesley York, who played Will on Line of the Lost, he was on one of our shows and said, uh, so the Sigmund and the Sea Monsters had a fire and they burned down the whole studio. They burned down the Land of the Lost studio, all of their sets, everything, big fire. And there was a guy in the episodes of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. He played a green genie, and he ended up because it probably burned his car or whatever. So he just had to walk home. So he was walking home as this green guy, genie,
Mhm.
and nobody said a thing. And he goes into his apartment bit. And he buzzes himself with the the guy at the front of the door. Just says, "Oh, hello, Dan. Come over, come on." Nobody even thinks about it there.
Yeah.
Had to fit right in.
Well, I remember
Well,
I was
Wendy-
walking
Wendy
around, I
likes
was
a lot
walking
of
through
his
Glendale.
songs.
I was walking through Glendale, California, and I see this dude. He's got the leather, jacket and pants and the stuff and the safety pins and all that. He looked like he just stepped out of CBGB's in 1979. And then I thought, I look like I just stepped out of Ciro's in 1947.
Hey,
Glad my
I've got a
suit
badge of
fedora
honor. I
on.
got kicked out of CDGBs.
So
Ah,
let's see. So let's see. Fanboy in Orlando in September. Gene Simmons is the top one. Then you got Weird Al Yankovic, and then you got the Goonies reunion.
I've never even seen the movie.
You got
Yeah.
Sean Astin, Corey Feldman, Martha Plimpton, Cary Green.
This is Fanboy.
Yep.
I'd almost like to meet Corey Feldman. Wendy met him last time.
And I'm surprised they don't have they got and then they got Robert Davey and Joe Plantano, but I'm surprised they don't have what's his name that played the older brother.
I don't recognize these names.
well, Robert
maybe
Davi
we'll
was
look
the
at-
guy
maybe
in
we'll
the
look at
the
Fanboy
second.
Expo. Yeah, it was. She said it was tough going there and back in one day. We got to
Then
meet
you
a
get-
lot of cool people that day. My
then you
problem
got
wasn't what.
Then you got the Lord of the Rings reunion. You got Elijah Wood, Sean Astin again, Billy Boyd, Miranda Otto.
We met Elijah Wood last time at one of those,
Mm.
and I didn't even know who he was. Wendy was meeting somebody, and I was the gator at the time, and I was
Yeah.
some guy that worked there was real nice and gave me something to sit on because costumes are never comfortable. And
Yeah.
he had gone off to. That's the problem with meeting these people. This is the main problem: is they, without warning, they just leave to do photo ops, and sometimes it's 45 minutes before they come back.
Yeah.
And there's no notice, there's no schedule. You're just in line, and all of a sudden you've got to wait 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Ooh, and then Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner are going to be there.
Really?
Oh my
Well,
God.
maybe
Yeah.
we should. I would like to meet Lee Majors.
Yeah, he's
Lee-
pretty cool.
Yeah, so maybe we make some plans for that. But yeah, so I'm sitting there, and I don't know who she's meeting. I don't know names. So she and there's no line, really. He comes back and she meets him, and then it's just like me, and I'm going, and the guy's like, "Oh, what would you like?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just with her," and he smiles and waves and nods, and I'm like, "Who's that?" And she's like, "Elijah Wood," and I'm like, "Who's that?" And she's like, "He played the Frodo in the Hobbit thing." And I'm like,
Mm.
"Really? I've seen those. I've seen the movies." Darren made me watch the 2 4-hour movies in a row in his cool basement thing.
Yeah.
Remember that, Darren? The director cuts.
We lost him.
And that's the last we ever heard of Darren.
Yeah.
And then Michael Bean's going to be there, and Bruce
ah,
Kulick.
no idea.
Is
who
Michael
second
Bean the
is.
guy that floofies and everything. That's Sean Bean.
Yeah, that's
No,
Sean
that's
Bean.
Michael Bean.
Michael
Yeah, Sean
Bean is
Bean does too.
Biehan. He's like he plays he's like one of the last tough guy actors who's actually believable as a tough guy.
He played the
Lee
original
Majors
Terminator.
is somebody I would actually like to meet. So that's
Yeah.
that's reason for me to go, I think. So
Well,
maybe
he
we'll
played
make
the
plans
original
for it.
Terminator, played in Aliens, and played in Tombstone.
Yeah, he's never like the star. He's always like the other guy.
Supporting
The shadow of the star.
Yeah.
supporting actor.
And then Bruce Gulick, who's apparently a guitarist with Grand Funk Railroad, Meatloaf, Billy Squier, and Michael Bolton.
Well, I shouldn't.
That's an
poo-poo
eclectic
that
bunch.
because, well, I've always been hoping for a rock con
Yeah.
where you got like a Moody Blues booth and you've got a Grand Funk booth and you can. That would be awesome. I would have.
Wouldn't it? But the problem is that the whole joint would be on fire like the second day.
What?
The whole joint would be on fire the second day. It's like,
Only if AC/DC was there.
I guess.
And maybe Guns
Stuff-
N' Roses.
Pianos get flung out of windows and shit, and TV sets raining down. Of course, you throwing a TV set out, nowadays they weigh like 10 pounds. In the old days where they weighed 500 pounds, they were explosive glass.
The
Oh, God,
difference is the people that threw pianos out the balconies, they were younglings. They didn't realize that all of that money they were throwing out the window was stuff they had to pay back. So these people that we would be seeing at the Rock Con, they'd be in their 60s or 80s, and they'd pretty much, I think they'd be past that stage.
You would hope so.
Or not.
Well, Sharon Osbourne was ELO's road manager. And she complained that they were like a bunch of little old ladies, that they would do their concerts and then they would just go to bed. And she couldn't stand it. And I think she threw a piano out their balcony, or just because they wouldn't.
I heard something similar about Jethro Tull,
What?
that they were pretty mild.
Yeah.
Yeah, so were the Moody Blues. They'd have a scotch and coke and go to bed. I think a lot of the more progressive bands were like that. And there's a thing about like Rush and Yes, is that there were no women in their audience. There were no groupies because it was just all men that would go, boys that would go see them.
Yeah.
Their women were too fearful
They
Or they
could
were
be.
into the bubble gum or whatever.
because they had armadillos in their trousers.
Yeah.
Isn't that
I don't
right?
think that women understand, and you can, Wendy Lou, you can
There's always
contradict my
exceptions, but
point
yeah.
here, but I don't think a lot of women are into the complexities of progressive rock.
Mm.
Then I was watching. Then I'm looking at all the
Squeaking.
guests.
Do you hear a squeaking?
Yes, but I was looking at all the guests for Tampa Bay Comic that just happened. No, actually, it's happening this weekend or next weekend.
Oh.
But I mean, some of their guests are like, look at this guy. He's the one that changed the toilet paper in the studio. And
That's a very difficult task. Most people I know are incapable of doing it.
They put it over the overhand instead of underhand.
Nah. Or
I
they
just
just
lay
don't
mine
know
on
how
the
to do it
counter.
at all. The mindset of somebody who will walk away from a office toilet and leave the roll empty and just walk off. That mindset, it just baffles me.
Sounds like you had a bad personal experience, Tony.
The office toilets where I've always worked, they were always like had locks on them and such.
yeah, ours
So
ours
when-
have the black covers on there where you pull out, and then once it runs out, you're like, well, what the hell? I'm sitting here.
You have to spare a square.
always
from
check
the
it
person
first,
next
yeah.
to you.
No, I don't have a square to spare.
Because they're covered up and you can't even see that the toilet paper is empty. So you sit down, do your business, and then you're like, damn, there's no toilet paper.
Back in the 60s, they didn't use rolls. They were almost like napkin dispensers, and you got one
Yes.
square at a time. And that
Remember
was
that?
fun. And then you went to wash your hands, and they didn't have like soap or anything. They had a little dispenser on the wall full of gravel. And you would put your hand under there, and you would go, and you'd get this gravel, and then you would try to wash your
I like
hands
the
with this
gravel.
fucking gravel.
At my grandma's house in Monument, when she lived on this country ranch in the mountains, they had a dispenser with the powdered soap. I liked it, thought it was cool. But I guess from what we were saying with Darren, it's like I think Seinfeld is kind of the Bugs Bunny of our generation, where you remember every damn quote from every
Well, not me
episode.
because I really watched it.
I didn't know you ever even watched it.
Oh, I watched every Seinfeld. I think I watched Seinfeld and Home Improvement. I saw every episode in the 90s because I'd work on my draconian costume and have to have something on, and I always watched
Yeah,
those shows.
my problem with Home Improvement it was because I really did work with tools and build cars and do all that shit. And the show, everything was so fake. I mean, it was all this sort of pretend TV stuff, and it didn't ring true to me at all.
Well, you just kind of
It's like hearing like guys using, oh yeah, I use WD-40 on it. A true mechanic doesn't use WD-40 at all. This is garbage.
Unless you go
Well,
through a
that was-
puddle and your distributor gets wet.
Yeah, it's a water displacer, or it's good for like getting the grease off your hands and shit. That's about all it's good for.
Remember,
Speaking, what?
I said, remember the old hand dryer things where it was just a towel that you pulled through.
Oh,
and it just
gross.
rolled
Yeah, it
up
was
the
just
the
the
rollers.
same cloth, just went round and around.
No. Some guy wipes his ass with it. And you,
Yeah, it winds all
Well,
the
you
way
would have
into
to
the
be
stalls and
pretty
then it
damn
breaks
limber
through.
to wipe your butt with it.
there were some tall people. Never mind. But what I was going to say is, what were we talking? Oh, Home Improvement. What were we talking about? Just
Yeah.
I had something on the tip of my tongue.
Probably WD-40.
WD-40. Shit.
That too.
I hate getting over the hill. I can't remember anything.
So does Pensacon just get the same guest every year and just bring them back?
Well, I liked Pensacon had some great guests. It's just such a shitty venue.
Yeah, because they've already got the guest list for 2026 so far. Eric Estrada is going to be there. Larry Wilcox.
Oh, Wilcox. I heard he was an asshole.
I like Eric Estrada. He's cool. Larry Wilcox can kiss my.
Paul Reiser is going to be there.
I can't stand that guy. I tried to friend him on Facebook and he never accepted my request. And I looked at his thing and he was just kind of this liberal douche.
Well, they all
This TDS, just constant. I'm like, God grief.
But it does look like Pensacon's going to be like a WWE reunion or some shit.
Oh, gross. Yeah, that's the part of the problem with these conventions. Is like 90% of the people are comic book artists or people that it's like I have no idea who these people are.
super famous, but you don't know who the hell they are.
The guy that changed the toilet paper in the studio.
Yeah, that's
Well,
important.
Pensacon is
No,
so.
it's like I could walk around Hollywood now and I'd probably step on 2 or 3, A-list celebrities. I don't know who the hell any of them are anymore.
Or never knew who they were to start with because,
There was a Clerks reunion at the last Pensacon I was on. I didn't even know they were there because the place was so convoluted. I thought everybody was on this one floor. Evidently, they put the Clerks guys in the basement or something. And I didn't know that they were even there until after the fact. And because I had Clerks too, and Josh was probably 8 or 9 years old. And he's like, "Can I watch this movie with you, Daddy?" And I'm like, "Maybe." Well, let's just see how bad it is. The credits didn't even roll yet, and one of the guys had wrote like "eat shit" on the side of the building. And I'm like, "Yeah, Josh, I don't think this is gonna be your thing." So I watched it alone. And the next day, he had been sent to the principal's office for saying that word. And it's like he watched 1 minute of that movie. And that was nothing. That movie was like the most rancid. It was funny. I've got it on DVD. It was a funny movie, but it's one of the most crass things I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have met them. Didn't know they were doing a reunion.
Somebody's got a bird.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the squeak that we heard. I thought it was one of my dogs at first squeaking, and I was like, "Oh, it's one of his birds." Okay.
Now they're calling me.
Okay.
Well, we got 10 minutes left. You have to tell them we have 10 minutes left. So I wasn't when I was younger, but Ratchet introduced me to a lot of music. Oh, Iron Maiden. Darren loved Iron Maiden. Yeah, Ratchet was a huge Iron Maiden fan. So was Darren for a while.
I still am.
I went and saw Iron Maiden at Pepsi Center. What,
Ah,
7, 8 years ago?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. I saw him. I took the kids to Fiddler's Green
Uh-huh.
probably 20 years ago. So it was like me, two teenagers, and 10,000 bikers. It was fun though.
ah,
The last
Bruce
concert
Dickinson
I went to was Duran Duran at Red Rocks, just
ah.
less than 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Don't you remember, guys? I did it live from Red Rocks. You know,
Yeah, I
was on
remember
there.
Yeah, I
that.
remember you
Yeah,
did
you had
doing
the-
that. Were they? Who's with them? Who was?
Nile Rodgers opened up for him.
Ah.
I figured he'd be with them.
Well, he was, but he was just he had his own band and opened it up.
I figured he'd just be by himself playing the bass.
Yeah, there you go.
Now that would be talented if you could do it right. If you could,
Yeah, there you go.
that would be a heck of a.
I think the last concert I ever was at the Monkees in 2012. It was after Davy Jones passed away, and then Mike Nesmith rejoined him.
I think the last concert I went to was in Alabama. It was a shrimp boil, and Alice in Chains was there, and just lots and lots of very popular bands at the time. It was a big thing. And that was after the lead singer of Alice in Chains had floofied, and they replaced him with a black guy that sounded exactly like him.
Ah,
They were good, really
oh,
good.
yeah.
I think
The-
the funniest part, that the thing I remember about it, was at night. It was almost like being in a drive-in that was weird, but everybody was gathered around, and these rednecks in front of me. Everybody was redneck. It was Alabama, but and Alice in Chains were on. These rednecks were so happy in front of me. All of them. I just saw the back of all these guys, and they were like,
Yeah,
they were all popping up and down.
yeah.
You know, like one of those Fisher Price things. It was so funny.
Yeah, that Monkees concert I went to was at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles. So, get it.
Oh, the Greek.
Yeah.
Darren and I saw that. That's one of my favorite comedy movies with Russell Brand. Get him to the Greek. And I didn't know that the funny black guy was P. Diddy. I didn't even know who he was. I just thought he was a funny black guy. I didn't know he was like this mafia king guy.
Yeah.
Bruce Dickinson did a speaking tour a few years ago, and we went to that show. Cool. I bet he had a lot of interesting stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, the concert I went to with Iron Maiden, his hair was real short because he had to cut it because he was also an airline pilot at the time.
British
Ah,
Airways,
makes
right?
sense.
I think so.
It was good to
Hey,
have a
I wonder how much of that has to do with him being a rock star, because I think when you're a somebody like that, you can get your foot in the door a little easier. I mean, I'm sure he had to take the training and do
Oh yeah.
what he had to do, but
Well, because you got to learn, how not to hit the fuel switches and all that other shit.
well,
But,
nobody else figures that out, evidently, with all the news stories I hear every day.
I was watching a documentary on tanks, and they interviewed a tank enthusiast who had his own tanks, and it just said Bruce Dickinson, and it didn't say Iron Maiden or anything else. It just kind of at the corner, Bruce Dickinson. So,
Yeah.
oh, he's got tanks
Well,
too. That's cool.
I got Facebook always gives you those friend suggestions. Oh, you may know. And I got one for Chip Douglas. I don't think I've ever talked
From
to
the Monkees and the Turtles?
Yeah, the not Chip, not Stanley Livingston,
The
but
producer.
the actual Chip Douglas.
Well, give me that link, because he was part of the Turtles. He played the bass on Happy Together. I want to be his friend. So
It's Facebook. You'll never see it again.
We were talking about what were you just saying?
I don't know. I keep getting friend recommendations for Gracie White. So
Yeah.
We'll accept
We
it. I
covered
don't
that
hate
last
her
week.
guts or anything.
no, it's not a request. It's just saying, here's people you might know.
Yeah, that's what that happened. It wasn't he wasn't sending me a friend request. It was just
I
suggestion.
know it's just recommended things.
Yeah.
We were talking about that you're going to a venue, and I thought about Mark Putt and one of his stories that I always liked was that he was at, I guess it was Rainbow City Music Hall or something, and he was gonna go to a show, or I don't know what the heck happened, but there was these kind of this raunchy motley crew of guys, not motley crew, but there were these guys, and they were trying to get in. And so he tried to help them get in and try to figure out a way to get into to the show, and they were figuring out, and finally they found a way in. It turns out that was U2. It was the band U2 that he was helping out, and it was before they were huge. And I don't think he knew who they were. And so I always liked him to, when we had new people here, like for the Transforma crowd, I'm like, hey, tell us a story about when you were at the Radio City. He's like, yeah, I met U2. I'm like, you can't tell a damn story.
Right. Tell the story right.
I told you my story about U2, right? That, you know, I've recently found out that actually nobody really likes U2, but everybody thought everybody else liked U2, so nobody wanted to make it awkward. So
yeah, well, it wasn't until U2 forced their albums on people's phones where they're like, okay,
yeah. Every time I download a new song on my iPhone, their album shows up, and I have to go.
Well,
in
that's
there.
your main problem. Is having
I was doing
stuff.
that because I use Apple Music on the phone, and you'll play one song, and it's like Spotify, it'll just play whatever it thinks you like. And then I start hearing this, and I look at the thing, and it's Dua Lipa, whatever the fuck that is.
Oh yeah,
They're trying to push contemporary crap on me. No, go away. No contemporary crap of any kind.
It's okay. I listen to Enya, and it has no idea where to go from there. So
yeah,
I had to finally pay for Spotify because I was sick of every third song I was listening to. It's like all of a sudden they'd have this ad, boom, boom, bitch better have my money. And I was like, shit, I'm just trying to listen to,
Well, it still does it when I open up the Apple Music. It's got the front page, and it says, "Oh, this is contemporary music and gangster rap and all this other." It's like, how do I get this to just completely not be in my field of vision at all?
Yeah, I know. At least tailor the ads to what you're listening to.
Yeah.
Don't you remember when you could, choose your own playlist and just do your?
Oh, you can do that. It's just I don't even want to look at that crap. I don't even want to be.
Oh, I love Spotify. Don't get me wrong. I just I had to pay for it to get rid of the stupid ads.
Yeah.
Weren't we all members of Napster at one time?
Oh yeah. Napster on dial-up.
Oh yeah.
I still have some of the tracks, and the thing is, because the MP3 has been on like a dozen different hard drives by now, and it's all it loses a little something. From
I'll tell you something.
then to now.
I'll tell you something. I load up every now and then. I still have one of those. What was the Apple thing that just
the
put music
iPod.
on?
The iPod.
Yeah, the iPod. I still have one, and every now and then I charge it up because I got a shitload of music on that thing. That's just like wow, it's. I need to transfer it over to my phone or something.
Well,
Yeah.
When I saw ELO in LA with Jeff Lynne, that was when Napster was just starting to really get a footing, and he was trying to debut new songs off his new album there, and people were like, "Sing all right," or when he's like, "Nobody was supposed to have heard that yet." It was, he starts crying and.
Oh yeah. Well, I do that.
Well, guys, our last 30 seconds.
Well, we started.
Well,
30
thanks
seconds
for
late.
being here, Darren. I hope you can show up
Yeah.
anytime you like. We love having you here. At least I do. I don't know about the other guys.
No,
I love having
it's
Darren
good.
here.
It's good to hear the other side of all the stories. It's all from Timmy's side. Darren, he bashed my
Beat
head
me up
open with
every
an
day.
axe, or he ran over me with his car and all this.
No.
We get all those stories.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that all happened. It's just you didn't know my motivation.
When I first
Yeah.
got on here, Darren, I was like, the only thing I remember from Timmy is he had an ant farm in his room and all the ants were dead in it.
Yeah.
You sent it to me for Christmas. That was the one damn thing you did for me, was send me a bunch of dead ants from the mail. See, you don't know every side of every story, you know.
Well, cool guys. Unfortunately, I gotta go do that damn work thing that I retired from. So
Yeah, how does doesn't make much sense.
You got to clean out motorhomes again at 11 at night?
no, but I gotta get up and go to work in the morning and clean out motorhomes. And
God.
Well, anyway, hope
Just wait till you're my
if you're
age and the
watching
legs
this, we
don't
hope you're
work at
doing
all.
okay. See you,
Yeah.
Wendy and
I'm
Lewis.
gonna try to reach out to Jen and Mark this week and see if I can
Please
get
do,
an
yeah,
answer.
because
so-
it's
Did you
nothing
go
but
up and see
silence, and
them?
I'm
Did you?
worried.
But did you do your visit?
Well, I couldn't because he was put in that isolation ward the weekend I was gonna go, and
Yeah, but
I was-
last week he was here. He was on the show.
But then he was in the hospital the next day.
Yeah, he wasn't in isolation, was he?
I haven't heard. I haven't heard anything. Usually, Jen kind of keeps us kind of up to date a little bit on Facebook or through Messenger, and I haven't even heard from her other than Mark Putz in the ER. Well, what is that, like Thursday night, Friday night, or
Yeah.
something? Or
Oh,
Maybe
thanks,
even
Wendy.
Wednesday.
She hopes I have a safe trip. I just
Yeah.
had my oil change today, and it costs $109, which means I'm going to probably lose that convenience and have to change the oil in the truck myself from now on. If that's how it's going to go.
Well, the changing
That's all
oil
right.
is the easy part. It's getting rid of the waste oil. It's the hard part.
Well, you
can't
just put
dump
it on
in the
your
ground.
weeds. My problem is resetting whatever in the truck so it doesn't say the oil needs to be
That's
changed.
true. That's true. Well, it's probably somewhere
actually,
in the manual.
just go to YouTube University. It'll show you how to do it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will. If I
Check
figure it
to
out,
see-
I'll do it.
Or what you
Check
can
on
do
how
is,
much
is go
oil
to the
costs,
Chevy
not $1
like
a quart.
website, and you can download the owner's manual in a PDF, and that way you can do a search on it instead of like taking the physical owner's manual
Oh,
and
yeah.
flipping through all 3,000 pages of it. You could actually do a
That's true.
search.
And what were you saying, Darren?
Check the price of motor oil before you do that, because
Yeah.
I was at Napa and it was like $10 a quart. So you might be spending $80 on oil to save 15 to have somebody else do it.
Yeah, she said mine was 8 quarts.
Yeah.
That
So
could be
that
eight.
might
That
have-
could be $80 to $100.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. Last year, it would have been $80 for the works to get my tires rotated and an oil change and everything else, and that was $109 just to change the oil. Anyway, I want to bitch about that.
Well,
I got a trip coming up and looking forward.
I'd like to change mine on all of my truck, but it uses that Dex whatever. And for me to buy it and do it myself is more expensive than just taking it to the shop and having them do it. It was like, holy crap. I think they do that on purpose.
Probably do. Anyhow,
take
and you're not
Dexter's
supposed to
lab
dump the
oil.
oil on the weeds. You're supposed to bring it to a approved recycling
Oh,
facility
and
so they
before
can sell
Tony
it to somebody else.
Before Tony disappears and before we disappear, duck your head, Tony. That scene there was the best stunt I had ever seen in a movie.
Oh,
Ever.
let me just do this that way.
Yeah.
There, now you can see it. Mad
When they're
world.
forking the road, the red car, Sylvester's car, they straddle that telephone pole, and he goes up into the field and down that embankment and onto the track, and they still start slapping each other, and he didn't crash. And I just can't believe they did that. That was
Yeah.
like the most amazing stunt I've ever seen. To me, the best stunts aren't the crashes; they're the
Right.
avoiding crashes that are the coolest.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I know it's 1 a.m. where Gus.
All right. So next week we'll be on the Transforma channel.
Yeah, we have a Transformer channel, but that doesn't affect you, Darren. We'll give you, if you want to show up, we'll give you the same.
Timmy will be talking to us from Missouri.
Yeah.
And I'll be a different creature because I'm always a different cartoon creature
Yeah.
when I'm doing the Transforma stuff. So
There you go.
Well,
yeah,
cool.
I'll be doing it from Missouri. Hopefully, unless something happens, unless something
Well,
happens.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean we're all there anyway. It could happen to any of us. So hopefully we're all
I
still
guess
alive.
so.
next
We're
week.
all like Tom Petty's age now. He was our age at one time or another.
Well, no, it's like you read us something like some celebrity. Oh, they like freaking like Roy Orbison. I looked up. He passed away. He was 52, and Robert Palmer, I think, was 54.
And then who just died yesterday? Was it that Warner Jamal?
Yeah, Theo. Yeah. Well, he drowned. It's like what the
Got
hell
caught
he was
in
doing
a
in the
touchy
ocean in the
subject
first
with-
place. I'll never figure out.
I know it's a touchy subject to Darren, but he floofied Roy Orbison.
Yeah.
It was an accident.
It was an accident.
Well, here's the people that I've seen live in concert: Michael Nesmith, Davy Jones, Peter Tork, David Bowie, John Entwistle, Bo Diddley.
To be fair, when you saw John Entwistle, it wasn't like a solo gig, right? He was part of the Who,
No, it was with the
right?
Who, yeah. But and the, you know, the comedian,
Sam Kinison.
Sam Kinison.
Sam Kinison. Saw him in concert. So I'm kind of bad luck with concerts.
I just saw before we go. I don't want to keep dragging this on. I saw a thing about Sam Kinison's the day he floofied, and when he had that Trans Am with his new wife or whatever, and his brother was behind him in a car. So the drunk driver asshole was coming into his lane, and he almost went to a stop, and the guy still hit him head on. And it wasn't that bad of an accident, but I guess it got him a certain way. He hit the windshield or something. And he was laying there and he starts yelling, "Not now, not now. He was talking to somebody that they didn't see. And then they calmed him down. He's like, okay. Starts nodding his head and then he's gone.
Yeah.
Somebody was there taking him. That was
Yeah.
the weirdest. I didn't want to be depressing and then the show being depressing. To me, it's not depressing. It means there's people out there.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, cool.
All right. So bye, folks. We'll see you next week on the Transforma channel. I was saying Transforma more for the benefit of our viewing and listening audience.
Yeah, I released a new Transformer video today.
Yay.
Yes. Robot lights.
Yeah, robot lights. Look it up.
Robot lights.
I think it's funny, but a little sad, but it's funny.
Yeah. It has that
Cool.
little pathos at the end there, which is, it's sort of like, because even like Charlie Chaplin movies, there was always that little moment of pathos or whatever they call it. Actually, they were pretty pathetic.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Good
all
night,
right, bye,
folks.
Bye.
Night, Wendy. Night, Darn. Night, Fidesco. Night, Lewis. Night, everybody.
Timmy.
Night,
Yep, bye.
Bye bye.
bye.